What's up, everybody? Welcome to GameFace, episode 441 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. I'm Shane Satterfield, your host for the next couple hours of intense video game discussion. Not a huge week of game news, but probably one of the biggest stories from the last maybe 12 months or so as Xbox has some severe job cuts, and we're going to talk about that today. And alongside me to do that, of course, is the one and only Matt Keil. What's up, Matt?
There's actually a lot of Matt Keils.
Are there?
Yeah, there's a lot of them online.
I've never even met another Kyle in my life.
Neither had I, but there's a few. There's one guy who's a British film score.
Interesting.
Writer. There's one who's he's a country music guy in Wisconsin. Who has
you moonlighting, Matt?
He's actually got a band called the Matt Keil Band.
Really?
It's been around since the 90s.
Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't bought like a t-shirt or something.
No, I knew about him back in the day because he had a poetry page. I think it was that guy. We had a poetry page that had some distasteful poetry.
Thus,
and eventually,
not buying the shirt.
Eventually, he updated it to include his middle initial to differentiate it. Unfortunately, his middle initial is the same as mine.
No way!
So now it just looked more like it was me.
Oh no!
So, but I
definitely not Matt.
No, that was 28 years ago.
Oh, really?
Or something. So he just does a country band now, but you see him now and then. There was for a brief time one of them started like a Matt Keil group chat on Facebook years ago, and almost all the others of us were like,
nah. We're gonna take a pass.
We're not doing that.
Growing up, there was no Shane Satterfields, but now there are. In fact, I get their emails randomly because I have like the most obvious like email address for someone with my name, and so I get like their medical records sent to me and all their appointments. It's really weird how people just assume like, well, it must be his email address. So I get like all the stuff for Shane Satterfield all across the world.
Yeah, there's a couple other Satterfield pages that pop up on my Facebook, probably just because you're in there.
Yeah,
but I've never seen another Shane.
Yeah, there aren't many. In fact, one is black actually. Was a really good basketball player. I don't know if he ended up going pro or not, but I watched him play in the NCAA tournament, and I was like, oh my gosh, another Shane Satterfield. He's actually good. Way better than me. I'll put it to you that way. Basketball was definitely my worst sport. But anyway, we're here for GameFace episode 441. It has been a bit of a slow week as far as game releases this week, but the good news or the bad news, depending on how you look at it, we got this like foundation-shaking news from Xbox this week, and we are definitely going to discuss that. It just feels like turmoil is just a part of the industry now. Like we just can't go like a month without some crazy thing happening anymore. It's really weird.
I mean, the Xbox thing didn't seem that crazy to me, just in the sense that it was the natural outcome of this AI bullshit.
It kind of is.
Here we are.
Yeah. Yeah, sadly, you're right.
They'll learn.
Yeah. Or will they?
Yeah, they will.
You think?
The things they want AI to do, they can't do.
Yeah.
And eventually, early on it might show. Might work, but eventually you're going to hit a point where it's just like, this isn't working anymore and we don't know why, and we can't ask it why, because the problem with Gen AI is it will, whether it's correct or not, it will give you an answer
and act like
it
it's
doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't know to say it doesn't know.
Right. Yeah.
And that is the big problem, because you can never know if you're getting real information or just something it made up because it has to answer you.
Right.
Maybe we need a fourth law of robotics, like don't open your mouth if you don't know your shit, kind of thing. I don't know.
That ain't happening.
Yeah, but
half the world would go silent, Matt.
Well, it's like the thing where it's like CEO, like you see this all the time. Like they do a big we laid off 15% of the company, and then all of a sudden the web app doesn't work. Yeah, well you laid off the web team.
Yeah. Well,
the web app was working, so why did we need to pay those people to do nothing? Because the web app worked because those people were doing something.
Yeah.
Like one of the problems with the C-suite level people is they think everybody else in the company does as little as they do.
Right. They think that everyone just comes to work and sits on a call for a couple hours
and
goes home.
It's like, no, that web team was actually keeping it working. The fact that you didn't see everything's working fine. Why do we need all these people? Because that's why it's working fine.
Right. Yeah. They think that there's people who are doing nothing like I am.
Yeah. And then you have these poor assistants that have to explain no, you fired Brian.
Yeah.
That's why That's why that's not happening.
That's why
now.
Brian's job doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, and you never replaced him with anyone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you don't get that anymore. I mean, I could email him, but I imagine he's not going to help.
Yeah,
for
free. I think America learned a very hard lesson about willy-nilly layoffs this week.
Oh yeah,
about just cutting people and not thinking about it.
Yeah.
So maybe.
Well, and the jobs report, it's like, everyone was, the jobs report was like way below for June, which was like minus 33,000 jobs lost in the private sector, but overall, we added like 100,000 something. But the reason we added those is because those were rehires of all the people that Doge had cut that needed. Everyone realized like, oh, we actually need those people, so they came back. So actually, the job market didn't grow; it just corrected itself after the dumb shittery from a couple months ago, which is. To be fair, they say like, oh, we're going to run the government like a business. That is absolutely how businesses are run. Like a bunch of morons make a bunch of stupid choices, realize that like, oh, this doesn't work anymore because I didn't understand how anything happens, and now we got to get everyone back or get replacement. Like that's that is pretty much how Silicon Valley operates. But when a Silicon Valley corporation fails, like the app goes down, people don't die.
Yeah.
And presumably no one's going to die as a result of these Microsoft things, except maybe the Xbox. Am I right?
Yeah, we'll get to that. That's for sure.
But it was both like a very sad story and also just sort of like, well, what the fuck?
What did you think was going to happen?
I mean, not that the people who precipitated that are going to feel any consequences of it right now, but it's like, yeah, of course you're going to do that because you're doing it. It's
yeah, level-headed people can see it coming. Unfortunately, not everyone's level-headed.
But also, like, there's nothing a lot of people that got laid off can do because there's no other jobs anywhere.
Right.
Like, there's nothing you can.
Because so many other people have been laid off that the competition for every job is insane.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's like we said last week. A lot of people are just going to have to look for new careers. Unfortunately, it's just until maybe things come back. I don't see it ever coming back to the pandemic levels, though.
Maybe not. I mean, But again, like I know people that have been out of work for a year and a half now, and these people worked on major projects, like movies you've seen in a theater.
Yeah,
I promise.
Oh,
and like,
I mean, production.
They can't get a job at Starbucks.
Yeah,
like that's how bad it is.
Well, now there's competition for the jobs at Starbucks.
That's the thing is like, especially in LA, jobs that have tips.
Can't get them.
No, can't get them because some of that stuff's real lucrative.
It is. I mean, you can make six figures with jobs with tips in LA for sure.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to GameFace 441, everybody, and welcome YouTube.
Welcome to the doom scroll, everyone.
I promise it's going to get more positive as we go.
No, it's not. We're talking about Death Stranding.
Well, that's true. We are going to talk about Death Stranding again. We're going to wrap things up because there was really no big releases this week. Believe it or not, Matt and I continued to play Death Stranding 2.
Guess how long I've played Death Stranding 2 now?
40 hours.
67 hours.
You've already played it for 67 hours.
I'm just delivering shit. I'm listening to podcasts and building roads, and then you unlock. At one point, you do unlock an upgrade for the roads that puts like a little energy roof over them. Once you go faster.
Yeah.
Oh, this game this game is dangerous for me. Like I don't even know what the fuck is happening in the story. I've literally turned into a road construction crew at this point. I'm just driving.
You're a road grader,
and I'm like teleporting back to Mexico to like rob them of all their resources so I can bring them back and build more roads. And I'm just like, this is okay. So like a white dude running over, stealing all of Mexico's resources, and going back to Australia to build a freeway system. Well done, Kojima. Yeah. That is so, like societal commentary that I can get behind. That is actually amazing. And they don't even say anything. I'm just like, I'll take all your metal and all your ceramics and all your special alloys, whatever the fuck those are. Yeah. And I'm going to take them to the other side of the planet to build freeways for people. Yeah. That I'm going to drive on. And then I'm going to get likes for it. And I'm not going to think about the fact that the likes don't do anything.
Yeah. It does feel good, though, when you boot the game up and you get that scroll.
Yeah, I have strand contracts with so many people. What's a strand contract? Shut the fuck up is what a strand contract is. I don't know what the fuck is saying.
We're humans. We're so easy to please. It's really funny, the stuff that really...
It is one of the best like line go up fill bar games I've ever played.
It is. Yep.
I just get annoyed when I have to stop and listen to these idiots talk. That's it. I'm just like, oh, we're gonna, and it's so weird because like they'll have a big revelatory like people like the characters are crying and like all this, and like Sam's standing there in like an otter hat covered in blood with like.
You mean like oil?
Yeah. Oh no, it was after a
Is it blood?
It was after a firefight, so it wasn't just tar. He had blood on him from getting shot, and so he's just standing there. It's like that, and everyone's all upset. I'm just like, can you at least have? And like he's got his sunglasses on, and I'm just like, Can you let the man change clothes
Can you
before
give him
this
a rag?
happens? At least, like, let him take a shower before we have the big briefing moment.
Let's see, a couple things before we get going. I hope everybody had a good and safe July 4th. Hopefully you guys came back with all your fingers intact. I went to a crazy July 4th party in El Segundo where it was literally like a war zone. People setting off quarter sticks of dynamite like they were firecrackers.
LA is always like that.
Commercial grade fireworks, 4 different setups within a block.
Just go to YouTube at some point and look up, like, put in Los Angeles skyline 4th of
July
July,
4th. Yeah.
and just it's like artillery fire.
It really
like
is.
It's,
well,
like you go out in the outside, and it's like being under artillery fire. It's like I don't know how people who have actually been in war. Live through this weekend like I've never heard anything like it in my entire life.
It's really
anywhere
insane.
else I've ever lived.
I know.
It's like it really is a wall of sound outside
that doesn't stop. It started at 7 p.m. and went till 1 a.m.
7 p.m. on July 4th and goes the whole weekend. Like it doesn't stop until like 2 a.m. Sunday night. And right around midnight Sunday night, I heard it was more sporadic by then because they're running out of stuff. But every once in a while you hear. And at one point, like right behind the house, pretty close behind the house, like maybe a block or two away, I heard like a fusillade of just like
a strip of firecrackers.
And then suddenly I hear, "Ah, fuck!" And I was like, "Oh, somebody found out.
Someone lost a finger." Well, it was insane. If you want to see what I'm talking about, you can go to my page on Blue Sky. I'm Shane Satterfield at Blue Sky. I put up a video of that night. It is unreal. The amount of money that people in LA spend on fireworks, to me, is mind-blowing. But anyway, I came back. I have all my fingers, so I can continue to do my job. Matt, you and I lose a finger, we're screwed. We really, if we lose like a thumb, we're in big-time trouble.
These 3 for sure.
Yeah, we'd be in big-time trouble. Yeah.
I could probably do without a pinky.
We'd have to file for disability. We really would.
No, I need a pink. I need, like, fighting game.
Yeah,
finger.
you still need it.
I use all of them for fighting games if I need to.
So anyway, I hope you guys had a safe and fun July 4th. And, all commentary aside, we do wish the families in Texas all the best. What's going on down there is just absolutely insane. So we do feel for the families. They're obviously a bunch of children. At this point, it seems like they are lost. So I can't even imagine what that would be like. So, all kidding, commentary aside, we do feel for the families in Texas. And I don't even know what you can say at this point. It's just horrible. So it really sucks. The whole, like, I had a great July 4th weekend, but then there was that. Like, this thing that's kind of just hanging out there where you're like, man, this is, like, devastating. So it was an interesting weekend here in America, to say the least. But here we are, ready to talk about the video games of the week here on GameFace 441. A couple things before we get going. We are supported, and I'll just bring up our fancy graphics right now. We are supported basically 100% at patreon.com/sifted. For just $5 a month, you get all our content early. It would be awesome if you head on over there and give us a pledge. That would be sweet. That's the surest way to make sure we keep the things going here. But there's other ways you can help us. If you're watching the show on YouTube right now, not live, but if you're watching the archive on YouTube, you can go down below in the description for the show, and it'll show you how to hook us up with Twitch Prime. You can give us a free $2.50 every single month. If you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, it's literally like 3 clicks for like $3. We'd really appreciate it if you can do that. And if you don't have that and you don't have any money, just like the show, comment on the show, say dumb podcast, great podcast. Doesn't really matter what you say, as long as you're leaving that comment. We really appreciate it. It is a podcast, that is for sure. And again, I think we have the dual streaming thing down. We got the stereoscopic chat coming back for this week. So I think we finally got into the groove as far as getting this dual stream going, and it's good to have our two communities merged together into one, like Voltron.
Certainly one of the podcasts of all time.
That's for sure. Just a couple more things before we get done with housekeeping and we head off to talk about the huge Xbox cuts, which is just insane. I'm actually excited to discuss that. On Thursday, there is a Sony State of Play for Ghost of Yotei, where we're finally going to get a look at gameplay. They're saying they're going to show 20 minutes of gameplay in this thing. That is Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. That will be up on SIFTD as always, and I will just remind everybody, if you're not using SIFTD and you're an adult who likes video games, and no offense to our YouTube crew who's on the chat right now, but if you don't like dealing with a lot of the toxic people on YouTube and you want a community full of adults who mostly act like adults when they talk about games, head on over to siftd.net. We have a home for you waiting there.
I don't know anybody who leaves the chat up for live stream, like, game announcement, like official, like, Sony or whatever, Nintendo. Like, the chat is just, it's just
It's pointless. It's pointless.
Noise.
It just goes so fast. It's just and what people do is just type one word and just spam it over and over and over again.
It's just Silk Song over and over and over again.
Pretty much. That's pretty accurate, actually. But Matt, I'm surprised it's taken this long for us to get gameplay of Ghost of Yotei. I mean, it's coming out in...
I imagine they were waiting for the Switch hype to die down a little bit, and then that dust to settle, and now it's time to start pushing the latter half of the year, and this is all they got. So
it is, pretty much.
Death Stranding's out, so time to...
This is our last big game for 2025.
Like you said at the beginning of the year, like everything was branded Death Stranding and this on the PlayStation Store, so now it's time to push this.
Yeah. And I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about that, to be perfectly honest. So anyway, again, on Thursday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, we'll get the first real extended look at gameplay for Ghost of Yotei. And of course, we'll be talking about that when we come back next Tuesday for GameFace 442, because Matt and I are huge fans of the franchise. Do you call it a franchise when there's just one game?
No,
not yet.
It's just a game.
It's just a game at that point, yeah. So Matt and I are both very, very excited to learn more about this. I'm sure you guys are too, and we will obviously talk about it.
I mean, my guess is it's going to be the first game.
Again, with a different plot.
With another sword, and you play a different instrument, and maybe you have a wolf.
Probably. I mean, I think the wolf's certain at this point.
Yeah.
What he does or she does.
Yeah, we just don't know what kind of gameplay element, if anything, the wolf will have, or it's just sort of a motif.
Yeah, which could be. We'll see. But it did look like the wolf talked in one of the trailers.
The wolf definitely reacts.
You saw his lips, like, trying to form words or something in the one trailer. I mean,
there is a Japanese tradition of forest spirits, talking through animals. Like, you saw it in Mononoke. And even very similar, where, like, the boar god and the wolf god talk in that movie, but the mouths are not synced to the dialogue.
Yeah.
Intentionally so, because that would look weird. So yeah, I mean, it could be that. I mean, there was a big through line of animals in the first one too. Like,
that's right.
Following foxes and birds. The bird represented his mother.
Yeah.
He was very attached to his horse. Like Jin literally stops the game at one point to find his horse when he loses him. Yeah. Which I like. I appreciate that Jin is an animal lover.
Hey, GameFace, we are animal lovers, no doubt about it. Between Matt and I, we definitely have a love for
Jin.
For little creatures.
Jin did a really. I think Jin is a character. I think this might be one of the reasons it was popular in Japan. Jin does a very good. Is a very good representative of the gentle warrior. Like, he's not a monster, despite what his uncle thinks about him for stabbing people. I think he did a good job. He's a singular character, and I know everyone kind of criticizes that first game for being a little flat, which it is.
Which I would agree with.
Everybody is kind of. I mean, but it is in that drama style of, like, of like everyone is very noble and everyone has to obey the
prim and proper.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sort of how that kind of samurai drama is.
It's a society, yeah.
And part of the tragedy of it is the breaking of that by his usage of stealth tactics and ninja style tactics, and his uncle's not very cool with that, because you're supposed. I mean, basically, the honor code is so strict that you're supposed to do stupid shit that's going to lose you the war.
Pretty much.
And Jin's like, nah, fuck that. Let's save the homeland,
that's a good idea, yeah.
And it's not hard to side with Jin.
No, it's not. Yeah.
But no, it's a good game. It's the other thing replaying it on PC made me realize is just like that game is just unrelentingly bleak.
Yeah.
It is a post-apocalyptic game.
There's really not too many rays of sunshine.
Yeah, because the Mongols have already invaded, and it's just, I mean, you're basically walking through the ruins of his home, and everyone has lost everything, and it's just. It's hard to. I mean, it's like that's like a 50-hour game, and it's just like after a while it weighs oppressive on you. It's a lot.
I had to take a break with that game and come back and finish it.
Same,
I did,
and I even though with all the bright color, I mean that's the thing. That's the genius of it, is it uses the colors and the bright lands. I mean, it's so beautiful and so it pops into. But like when you really get down into it, it's mud and blood and loss and tragedy.
The beauty of sadness
and things that will never be the same again. And I'm very curious what the tone of this one will be, because it seems to have like a similar sort of, but I wonder if it will be that same sort of unrelenting.
I hope it has a little more levity.
Maybe it doesn't really
look
like
it. No, it really doesn't.
It actually looks weirder.
I agree.
Than the last one.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is cool.
It seems like maybe they're going a little more supernatural, even
a little bit. Because like it's in Hokkaido. It's a little more off in the boonies, so to speak, and it's it's dealing with I'm blanking on the name. It's the it's the natives up there that the Ainu.
Yeah. The Inuit or
Ainu.
INUI.
AINU.
AINU.
Yeah, they're the natives up there, a little darker skin. They were kind of looked down, traditionally looked down on by the kind of the nobility and the ruling classes in the South.
Yeah, remember we talked about this because we were the only ones who went and read that big preview that Famitsu did on the game. When the U.S. press hadn't covered it at all, Famitsu did this huge blowout. Yeah. And we covered it here on GameFace.
Well, the Ainu are generally, especially in anime stuff, are kind of portrayed as a little more mystic. I mean, Nakaruru in Samurai Showdown is Ainu. Yep. And she has that kinship with animals, just like she does. Yeah. Or so I imagine that will be part of it. And it'll just have that sort of. It probably will have a more supernatural bent. I mean, there's some of that in Tsushima with the kind of the ghost of his mother.
Yep. It just feels like it's going a little bit further in that direction.
This one definitely has a little more, little weirder, a little more horror aspects. Strange people in the night by fires grinning at you, kind of thing. So, which is cool. I mean, and she seems she actually seems a little scarier than Jin, like with all the mask stuff and kind of all the. She's clearly more rageful than he was. So
yep, we'll be talking about it next week. I'm excited.
I'm also interested in that they have kind of hinted that this is not Ghost of Tsushima 2. That's because obviously it's 400 years later or whatever. Yeah. That they still might make another game that is the follow up to Jin.
I hope they do.
But they're just sort of branching. It's almost like a spin-off more than a sequel, which I'm cool with that. Like you can definitely take this different places, and you might as well.
It's a pretty flexible concept.
It is.
Yep. All right. Let's check in with y'all. Of course, that means our YouTube crew as well. It's really still stunning for us to pop up the chats and see both crews becoming one in stereoscopic chat right here on GameFace. Let me scroll up here and see if we missed anyone who gave us Twitch Prime to start the show. We usually do, and it looks like we did. iViz, thank you for Twitch Prime. A Million Miles Away, thank you for Twitch Prime. Ian Esquire, thank you for subscribing. Mighty Pony Girl, how are you doing? Hope you're having a good week. Ham Chop X, that's another great username. Thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome, man. Thank you very much. The Surly Mexican, AJ the Legend Watson, thank you for Twitch Prime. Shane, you and I listened to so much of the same music growing up. So I was playing Blur today before the show started. Really, they only had one good album called Leisure, but that is a really, really good album. There's like 8 really great songs on it.
I like Park Life.
Oh, you know Blur?
I know Blur.
That's awesome.
I had my Britpop phase.
Oh yeah.
Thanks to Miguel. You remember Miguel?
Oh yeah, he had good taste in music too. Yeah. But matter of fact, that's good to hear. I mean, people always talk about the music that I play before the stream, so maybe try to get here a little bit early and you can hear some of the tunes that I play. Don Lionheart, thank you for Twitch Prime. To Limper, another great username. Buenos dias to you, Khalib Twilai, who's in Paris speaking Spanish, which is kind of awesome. CRZ Yest1, thank you for Twitch Prime. And I think that's it. And as always, guys, remember, and this is going to get more important as we do the dual streams, or the dual chat stuff. If you have stuff that you want Matt and I to address and look at that you're not just putting out for everybody else in chat, always start that with @SIFTD Games, even in YouTube. It'll help us draw our eyes when you guys have questions, so we don't spend a ton of time just scrolling around and burning time. David5807, thanks for doing the stream. Of course, I love doing this. This is like one of my favorite. This is like my favorite time of the week, honestly. So, what else we got here? Anything? Here's one. Ian Esquire, you have to use the Xbox adaptive controller. He's talking about if we lost our thumbs. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's the cool thing is that they are working on stuff like that for people, who want to play that don't have all their digits or whatever. Let's scroll down here. Joaz MPT, thank you for Twitch Prime. I don't know how to pronounce your screen name, though. Joseph. What do you think?
I don't know. Joaz MPT.
We're doing our best. Could Matt move the mic a nudge closer? Is Matt too quiet this time? I can bump him up just a little bit, but people say this all the time, and then Matt moves the mic closer, or I bump up the volume, and then I take the show home, and it's like over-modulating, and his voice breaks up. So we're going to be very careful taking your guys' advice about audio going forward, because I'm the one who has to try to fix it later on, and it's not easy. That's where Soundwizardry.com comes in a lot of times, actually. But here's the thing. You can't fix audio when it's too loud.
No.
If it's too loud, you can't fix it. If it's too low, you can, but you need somebody like Soundwizardry to take out all the hiss.
If you overmodulate and you're getting hits, then
there's nothing you can do.
That data's gone.
Yep, it's gone. Let's see. WHO, one good album. Shots fired. Oh, you're talking about Blur. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I never really caught on with any of their other albums. What was the other one you mentioned?
Park Life.
I do remember that had...
Park Life that had Song 2.
Yeah.
It had...
one other one, I think.
Park Life, which was
that was kind of a big hit. Yeah,
but that was the height of the Oasis Blur feud. And
Oasis just got back together.
And I do remember one of my favorite things. I mean, I did like Oasis more, but I do remember. I can't remember what award it was, but the Oasis won some award that year that Blur was also up for, and they won it, and Blur lost it, and Oasis got up and for their thank yous, their acceptance speech at the end, they're just like, Noel's just like, and we really just want to thank all the people, and then they just sang Park Life, except they changed the lyrics to Shite Life.
Oh,
and it was very and Blur's just sitting there like, yeah, mm-hmm. And I was like, man,
a lot of those bands hated each other back in the day.
There was no
all kinds of rivalries.
Well, they hated each other internally. I mean, like the Gallaghers couldn't stand each other.
The brothers hate each other. That's crazy.
And all says, we just really think we're the best bond in the world. It's like what the really? I'm okay. I mean, you're good, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's a stretch, I think.
Noel's out there saying that they're better than, and Liam's out there saying they're better than the Beatles.
Right.
Like, I don't even particularly like the Beatles, but come on.
I hear you. Ian McGar on YouTube says, I saw Blur live a few years ago. They played until they got kicked off the stage and caught because of a curfew. Yeah, at the Brit Awards.
The Brit Awards. That sounds right.
Interesting.
Yeah. That was a long time ago. That was 25 plus years ago.
And Xbox Embracer with deeper pockets, the Legacy says. So the Legacy gets it. So what the Legacy did there, where it's highlighted in orange, on YouTube, if you guys want to get our attention, that's what you need to do. And we'll just be able to see that, pluck it out of the chat, and answer you as quick as we can. So you guys know the rules, or the pattern that we follow here. We talk about a topic, and then we go to you guys after Matt and I are done talking about it, so you guys can give your commentary. So that's a good time to jump into chat and maybe add something, because that's usually when we go. I'm just telling you this if you're on YouTube. If you have not watched the show live, that's typically how we roll. Mm-hmm. We talk about something, then we give you guys a chance to have your say on it as well. And I'll just be honest with you, we're the only show that does that.
Really?
A lot of podcasts will wait to the end and just do Q&A, but they don't let their fans chime in and discuss things with them as they're going. We're the only gaming podcast that does that, and I think it makes our show better. So
we're going to keep. They also don't disagree with each other much.
That's true.
Which is weird.
It is weird because you're human. No two humans are the same. Let's see. I think we got another Twitch Prime in here. Norx Nessie, thank you for Twitch Prime, and the Big Smoke 82, thank you. Eric Cartmenis says Liam is right from Oasis. Big Smoke 82 says I'm going to Scotland to watch Oasis in a few weeks. Can't wait. Have fun, man. Have a good time.
And of course, Oasis's real legacy is. Anyway, here's Wonderwall.
Right. That's right.
Some kid got brought up on stage to play guitar with Green Day to play Basket Case with them, and then instead he launched into Wonderwall, and they kicked him off stage.
Nuh-uh.
That was like last week.
I missed that, actually. The kid started playing Wonderwall?
Basically, he did a full, anyway, here's Wonderwall on stage with Green Day, and they're like, get the fuck out.
Oh, that's hilarious. Did they laugh at least?
Yeah, it was like, come on, man.
That's pretty funny. It takes a lot of guts to get up there and do that. I gotta hand it to that kid. That does take a lot of guts. Okay, I think it's time for us to start this freaking show called GameFace, episode 441. But before we do that, here's a word from our awesome sponsor, L to the S to the Cream. LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Cray Mass, and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. LS Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator, head to creamls.com/sifted. That's creamls.com/sifted. That's right, people. Go to creamls.com/SIFTD. It is the only website you need to make sure you're mixing up the very best with LS Cream. Also, last week in particular, it seemed like a lot of people were commenting in our chat about they could not find it in their territory or whatever. I'm just going to let you know right now that they are working on that right now. I mentioned like a month and a half ago that LS Cream had something really awesome happen for it, that it needed to happen. And now they're in the process of starting to get distribution into new territories where they're not there. Here's what I'm going to say, though. Keep them coming. As far as, like, if you live somewhere and you can't find it, let us know in the chat and we'll mention it because they watch the show, LS Cream does. And when they hear people saying they can't get it in a certain place, they actually go and they try to work on getting it into those places. So keep that information coming. It's very handy. I would argue that if you can't find it locally, you still might be able to find some place where they'll ship it to you. So even if you go to your local liquor store, wherever you live, and you don't see it in there, I would still go to creamls.com/SIFTD because I think you'll probably be able to find some way to get it delivered. Anyway, LS Cream is amazing. I say it all the time. It mixes with everything. It's great. I took it to the July 4th party that I went to, turned a bunch of people onto it. They all loved it as well. And they said they're going to go and buy a bottle. So I have not ever given LS Cream to people who did not want to go and buy it themselves. That's how good it is. Go to creamls.com/SIFTD. All right. It's time to talk about a horrible story. One of the worst stories, probably the last 12 months. Because, Matt, I think a big reason why people are freaking out over the Xbox layoffs is I think people thought they were over. Mm-hmm. Now, we did get a hint that this was coming. Was it Jason Schreier?
Schreier was talking about it.
It was like a week or two ago that he heard some rumblings that it was going to happen, and then the axe fell this week.
And this was actually turned out bigger than even he was hinting. I think even that he knew.
Yeah.
He just knew something big was coming, but I don't think anybody saw full studios being shut down and stuff as on the bingo card.
Yep. So quick recap of what happened. 2 major games were canceled. The Perfect Dark reboot from the Initiative and Crystal Dynamics was canceled, and the Initiative was completely shut down. Everwild from Rare was canceled, and there were also layoffs at Rare. Greg Mayles, who is literally the god of Rare. He has been there since like 1988. He went through the whole N64 era with Rare.
One other woman, this woman whose name I'm forgetting, she's been there since the 90s too.
Yeah.
And she's gone. Like basically all the last vestiges of old Rare are gone.
Yeah. And it feels like the people that are left there, just a Sea of Thieves crew.
Pretty much. It's a Sea of Thieves machine now.
May have been the worst thing to happen to Rare was it doing well on PS5.
Yeah, and they also, a lot of unannounced stuff got canceled.
Yeah. That we don't even know about.
And I'll tell you what, Forza Motorsport's dead.
Yeah. We're going to go through all this stuff, but that's the basic gist of it.
It was a huge slash.
9,000 people slashed at Microsoft in general. Mm-hmm. And I can't believe some of the cuts. So let's just talk about the people. Because, Matt, you and I know the people that have been affected by this. I'm not going to name names, but I am friends with somebody who has worked on Halo for the whole time. I think he started working there on Halo 2 when it was midway through development. And he has been a part of Halo since then, and he was let go. Mm-hmm. That, to me, was when I realized, oh my gosh, like these cuts are going deep. Because if that guy gets cut, he's like the heart of Halo. I couldn't believe it. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I think so.
RS are his initials?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's been like the heart of Halo forever, and he was let go. Kiki Wolfkill, I'm not sure if she survived or not. I saw her post something on Facebook.
Still there?
Yeah. She's been working on like the cultural stuff around Halo. Like she worked on the Halo TV show and stuff like that.
I remember that.
I don't know if she's still there, but she posted something kind of cryptic as well on social media. So I don't know if she's still there or not.
Honestly, even if you didn't get laid off, this is a pretty good sign that it's time to bail.
Well, here's the other thing that happened, Matt, that people who were laid off from there have been talking about is that a lot of people who were let go were on the verge of having their RSUs vest. Mm-hmm. So RSUs, for those who don't know, are restrictive stock units. And basically, if you're an executive somewhere, they give you RSUs. When you go to sign your deal and you negotiate your salary and everything, part of what you negotiate is RSUs. And what RSUs are, it's stock in the company that you're working for, but you don't get it right away. You have to wait for them to vest. Most RSUs take 5 years to vest. If they really want you as a part of the company, they'll give you a 3-year window for those to vest. But there are some that take 7 and 10 years to vest. And what I was basically told was that a lot of the people who were cut were people who had significant amounts of RSUs that were about to vest.
That happened to us at G4 when they merged, when Comcast merged with NBC. They gave everybody, it wasn't a lot, but they gave everybody a little bit of stock that was gonna, and they shut G4 down. I think we all got laid off like about 5 months before we would have gotten that stock. Which, and I remember when we got it, I think it was a 3-year. And I remember when we got it, like a bunch of all the more negative people at the company
said we'll never get the money.
Like, that's when we're all getting fired. Like that's how long G4 has.
Oh man!
And they were right. I mean, at the time, I was like, okay, you've been saying we're gonna get fired next week for the last 3 years, but that was a pretty good indicator. But believe me, like, yeah, it doesn't mean anything.
It really
until
doesn't.
It happens.
Yeah, until you get that money,
yeah,
they're worth nothing. And so, word on the street is that a lot of the cuts came for people who are about to make a ton of money, because right now, if you have one share, it's $500.
Yeah, because remember, the company is not your friend.
Yeah, well,
ever.
We know that.
Ever.
Yeah.
No matter what company it is, no matter what you work for, they are not. This is not the 1950s.
Yeah.
This is not. They're not going to give you a gold watching your pension at the end of this.
Yeah.
If they can get out of paying you more than they have to, they will.
And here's the thing: like, usually when they give out RSUs, it's not like 10 RSUs. It's like 250, 500, 750,
not for like
1,000.
If you were one of the key people on Halo, especially back in that day, when he was, you got some.
So do the math on that.
Shit.
If you were given 1,000 RSUs at $500 a share,
and that's been
you were about to become very wealthy, and they just ripped.
Yoink.
Nope, not happening. So that is internally, at least, from...
Now, hopefully he had other stuff that vested over the course of, because he's been there a long time.
I mean, he's fine.
Yeah.
Like, he has made great money for, like, 20-some years. He's fine, but still, I don't even know if he was one of the ones that was about to vest.
Like people who, like, came on for, like, Halo 5 probably got hit much harder in that respect.
For sure, yeah. So anyway, it's Dirty Pool on top of Dirty Pool of what happened at Xbox. Let's start going through the individual announcements here and kind of walk through them and the implication of each one. First thing we're going to talk about is Perfect Dark and the Initiative. To me, Matt, this was the biggest surprise, because we had just seen the demo from the game that you're about to see here on GameFace Live. And it looked pretty dang good. People were really impressed with it. I wasn't impressed with it as a lot of other people were.
I wasn't. It was very... I mean, obviously, after this, like, Imran Khan and some other people were like, yeah, now we can talk about this. That demo was total bullshit.
So, that's interesting, because a lot of people at the Initiative said it wasn't.
Well, it's bullshit in the sense that it's not the game. It's just a vertical... Like, basically, all the Initiative has been doing for, like, 7 years is making different vertical slices of things, and no game really existed.
That's kind of what I figured. So
I mean, that's clearly what this is. Like, this is all, like they said, this is all staged, and if you do anything in this demo, quote unquote, other than what you're supposed to do for the demo, it basically unravels. Like, this is not designed to do anything but exactly what you see it do here.
Yeah, I mean,
which is not the game.
So the Initiative says it was the game.
It's what they planned the game to be, I'm sure, in some form.
They said it was the game. They said the stuff that you see playing is actually in the game.
Yeah.
But then, like 2 days later, a couple other people said, well, it's mostly in the game.
Mostly game. And now that people aren't there anymore, they're like, yeah, that was just constructed.
Oh, really? I had not seen that.
Yeah, Imran Khan was basically like, this was constructed.
How would he know?
Because he knows people on the team.
Oh.
He has inside shit everywhere. He's not always super reliable, but, like, he's not a liar.
Yeah. I mean, I would trust the Initiative people first, because they have no reason to lie. Because they were just laid off. They don't have to worry about keeping their job or anything.
I think it depends how you define it. Like, this, if the game had come out, this sequence would probably not have been in it.
I mean, that happens a ton of times.
Yeah,
anyway,
but like
every game.
This is basically proof of concept. It's not the game. And again, they'd been working on this how long? 6 years at this point?
I mean, also if
this is all you have after 6 years, there's a problem here.
Serious. I mean, look, I'm not debating that. Also, if you watch
I'm not sitting here to blame the Initiative or Crystal Dynamics on this, because we've seen the people that worked at the Initiative and, of course, Crystal Dynamics get shit done way more complex than this in way less time. Mm-hmm. So the question becomes, what was happening here from management side that was causing this to take so damn long?
Well, one, you notice this is all chopped up. So it isn't like one gameplay sequence.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like they just pulled separate little parts of different parts of the game and then chopped them together into a gameplay trailer.
Well, this is going through this one little vertical slice thing they've made, and they just sort of, they cut out the boring parts, which is probably running from one place to another.
Maybe.
This from what I understand was from what people were saying was literally just built for this demo. So, and that they'd been building a lot of vertical slice stuff to show to higher ups and as kind of proof of whatever concept, and like it just kept not turning into anything, or like probably because it didn't get greenlit for anything, I would imagine.
Well, I mean, we had red flags with this game right from the beginning. I mean, don't forget that Crystal Dynamics was called in to help on this project almost immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, they started the initiative only to make this game. And then it seemed like within a year of announcing the game, Crystal Dynamics started working with them. That was the first red flag. It's like, okay, well, this studio is not going to be able to handle this on its own. When Crystal Dynamics then joins the project, and a year or two later, we still don't have anything, and then eventually we get that demo, there were red flags all along.
Well, I think the main red flag was that this thing was doomed, like at retail. Like, this was not going to be a hit. No one gives a shit about Perfect Dark.
They don't. No one cared about Perfect Dark that much in the N64 era. It sold a shadow of what GoldenEye sold. And
GoldenEye also wouldn't do well now. Like it was, you're kind of trying to recapture a thing that just never, that was and isn't now.
Because remember, Perfect Dark Zero was Rare tried to revive it, and it was bad, and no one really cared then either. And
even
that was
as a launch title,
15 years ago, 20 years ago.
That was 20 years ago.
Yeah. So this is.
I don't think Perfect Dark gets you anything. It just calls something. You can call it something else, and
it appeals to like 40 and 50-year-olds.
But it doesn't. Like, I don't care about Perfect Dark.
I don't care that much either. Honestly,
like,
it was kind of a goofy
what defines
game.
Perfect Dark? Like a red-haired woman with a gun and an alien named Elvis. Like, what are you gonna do with that?
Datadyne, yeah, yeah.
Like the gun that sees through walls. Like, who gives a shit?
Far Sight. Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm surprised that they greenlit it.
Yeah,
you would assume that they did a bunch of.
I mean, like
research.
Some of the cuts here make some sense to me. Like, it's like, this doesn't work, so we're gonna stop throwing money at the wall on it. Fine, like that. Everwild has been a mess with like trying to like, we made a world and now we got to find a game in it. No, that's not how you do that. Like, you don't shoot a bunch of footage and then decide to make a movie with it somehow.
Well, this game was in development for like 5 years, 4 years.
I thought it was coming up on 7.
Really, for Perfect Dark?
It's been a while.
I think Everwild's been longer, though.
Everwild has definitely been longer.
Yeah. Everwild has definitely been in development for at least 7 or 8 years. It has pivoted.
Probably longer than, we've known about
pre-production,
it for about that long.
It's pivoted at least twice. Here's the thing with Everwild in particular, is that Microsoft should have killed this game years ago. It should have been killed a long time ago. Like, it's not like when they showed it the second time, when we got the second trailer, its concept had changed.
Yeah, well, especially because, like, as cool as a lot of it looks, it doesn't really look all that different from, like, these indie things that come out after, like, 3 years with 4 people working on them, Like, you don't need the power of Microsoft and the budget of Rare to get this game made anymore.
You really don't. I mean, it looks like an indie game.
And it was going to sell like it. And if it even mattered because of the Game Pass stuff. And the Game Pass stuff is now getting its own raking over the coals with the revelation that all the Game Pass profitability stats do not take first-party games into account.
Well, the money that they would have lost off the first-party games.
They only count third-party stuff. And so, like, if you then incorporate the budget spent on making the first-party stuff, is Game Pass still profitable?
Well, they take the budgets into consideration. They don't calculate how much money they would have lost if they had just released those games as products apart from Game Pass.
Well, the thing I saw that the guy was talking about was basically like the first-party budgetary stuff is not part of what they're telling us about the Game Pass profitability. Like, the first-party game development is completely unaccounted for in the Game Pass numbers they're giving us.
That seems insane. And
everyone said that's exactly what everyone said, and he's like, "That's what Xbox told me."
Wow.
And so it's like maybe he misunderstood, maybe that's not what it is, but it sounds like they are gauging Game Pass success by
how much they pay for the third party
by how much they're laying out for the third party stuff, and they're just considering the first party games like
collateral,
costs that would have existed anyway, no matter what.
Oh, interesting.
Which is a very interesting way to run those numbers. I was just having a conversation where I was trying to, Jurassic Park Rebirth over the 5-day weekend, holiday weekend, got
very well.
Very, very well. It's the number 2 opening weekend of the franchise history. And people are like, well, wait, it's 5 days, not 3 days. I'm like, well, all that matters in box office accounting is how much money you have at the end of Sunday.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. And I was like, but 5 days is more than 3 days. I'm like, yes, but it doesn't matter. It's a weekend is the weekend, no matter when.
They've always measured
and
it
they've
that
always
way.
measured it that way, whether it makes any sense or not. Hollywood accounting is Hollywood accounting. Yeah. But again, next Jurassic Park, if it makes way less than that, I guarantee you on Monday there will be a PR statement from Universal talking about how, well, this one only had 3 days.
Yeah.
So it's all on how they want to spin it. But that's a very creative way of saying Game Pass is successful, because we would have been spending hundreds of millions of dollars on Gears of War anyway. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't know. I mean,
that's cooking the books as far as I'm concerned.
A little bit, yeah.
I mean, it's not an accurate representation of the actual financial status.
I mean, you're kind of getting down like, well, I guess it's their money and they can lose it if they want. Like, but if I was a major shareholder, I'd certainly want more granular data than that.
Yeah. Well, the irony to me of this whole thing, and it is a big story, and I'm very pissed off, and we're going to get to the stuff I'm really pissed off about, but the 2 biggest games being cut, they make sense to me.
Yeah. The biggest, I mean, I guess for me the biggest game that was cut is Forza. Mm-hmm. Like that's the shocker, is that they laid off half of Turn 10. And on one hand, it's like, okay, yeah, the last Forza Motorsport was not a hit. Yeah, to say the least.
But and it was in development for 7
forever,
years.
And it actually was probably the worst Forza.
It might have been.
It probably was.
It looked pretty.
Oh, it looked pretty, but it was not a full-featured Forza Motorsport in comparison to the others.
Which is crazy.
Or in comparison to Gran Turismo.
Right.
Like, it's the first Forza Motorsport game that I felt fell short of the competing Gran Turismo at the time.
Oh yeah. GT7 definitely
100% GT7 is a better game in every way.
Yeah.
Which I've never said before.
Yeah, I agree.
And basically the remaining Turn 10 is going to be a support team for Forza Horizon.
Which was kind of what it was doing anyway.
Yeah, but like those are the people who weren't laid off.
Those are the people who kept their jobs, or the people who are working on Horizon.
Or tech support, basically, for because they do the tech.
Right, like they built the engine for both Forza franchises.
Forza comes from Turn 10. Turn 10 is the one that made Forza in the first place.
Yeah.
Bunch of car people, like just even the guy, like one of the high level people's name, like, unfortunately I forgot, but he was posting on Facebook about being laid off and all that, about working for Turn 10 for all these years, and his whole personal feed is just car stuff. He's taking his cars to these meets and he's going to the track, like he lives and breathes car. Like, these people live and breathe cars, and this was a dream job for them. And it's a shame that had to go away.
Is, yeah.
Because it's like, the thing is, like, I understand why with all that time and years and budget and effort you put all this into this Forza Motorsport version, and it comes out and it just fizzles. But it's not like the Forza Motorsport thing is an unproven concept. It's not like the next one couldn't be better.
Right. Yeah. It's not like people have rejected the idea.
Like, cutting bait like that just feels really short-sighted, and it feels, with the with the tie-in with their $80 billion with a B, right, $billion AI initiative, it feels like they're gonna try to have AI make Forza 9.
Maybe. I mean, I think Forza's just dead. Forza Motorsport.
I think they're gonna try to make a number of these with AI.
Wow.
I bet you that's what the next Halo is.
Wow.
They're gonna try to make a Halo AI.
People would lose their crap.
Well, they're not going to tell you until it's too late.
You'll figure it out.
They'll figure it out, of course.
We always do.
But there's a widespread belief in a lot of C-suites in this industry that believe that the upcoming new versions of these Gen AIs can make a game.
I know they think they can, for sure. We should also add that Jason Schreier did break the news about Forza Motorsport. He also shared the information about 50% of Turn 10 being laid off, and the remainder working on Forza Horizon. We always try to attribute reporters here on GameFace when they break news.
Although the Perfect Dark thing I found out about from Microsoft's Matt Booty's actual statement.
Well, because the first wave did not mention Perfect Dark. It only mentioned Everwild, the first wave of news.
And then Booty put out a statement, and it said Everwild and Perfect Dark and the shutdown of Initiative. I'm like, what? And I texted you. I was like, what? Like, wow, that's a fucking bloodbath over there.
I couldn't believe it, honestly. But then as I started thinking about it, like, I do get Perfect Dark and Everwild.
Oh, yeah. I don't really understand shutting the entire studio down.
What, the initiative?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't think we have the information to know whether that was worthwhile or not.
I guess not, but it's like if you put this studio together, like was it really just good?
I mean, that was a failure. Their hiring was a failure for sure.
You put the studio together, was it literally just to make this one game? You don't think these people are capable of making something else?
I don't think they are. I don't think they do think that they're capable. I think that's why they cut them.
I guess, but like no one involved in that project is people that haven't shipped anything.
Right.
So like I don't know. Like I am skeptical that the problem was on the development team side.
I mean, having to bring in Crystal Dynamics, to me, that's a huge red flag.
Somewhat, but what were they doing? Like, what was it for?
No matter what they had.
Why
to
did
do,
you not?
They just had to help.
Why did you not build a team that didn't need that help then?
Because I agree 1,000%. HR dropped the ball. They did horrible hiring for the initiative. Like they just did. Or if they didn't, they would have had a game finished by now. Having to bring somebody in, I can't remember that ever happening.
Or maybe they were struggling because it's very hard to make a worthwhile anything out of Perfect Dark.
That could be too.
Anyone ever thought about that?
I mean, that could be part of it as well.
Like if you get put me on that project, I'm like, what the fuck are we supposed to do with this? Like.
Yeah, and we like Perfect Dark.
Yeah, but how do you make a compelling Perfect Dark game in 2025?
Yeah,
or 2017, depending on when you're brought in on this. You know, it just especially with like as things change and kind of gameplay conventions arise. God, going back to some of these older, even like 10 years ago, it's real hard. It's like Mind's Eye. Mind's Eye would probably been fine like 10 years ago.
Yeah,
but nowadays
standards are way higher. Yeah. To me, the thing that stood out the most as far as cuts that I did not compute was that ZeniMax Online Studios was working on an unannounced, what basically sounded like a Destiny killer. This is a studio that
the Blackbird.
Yeah, it's called codename Blackbird. This is a studio that makes the Elder Scrolls Online, and they were working on a shooter MMO that had never been announced, but to your point, it's called codename Blackbird. Reportedly, Phil Spencer loved it so much that like people had to tell him to stop playing it. Seriously, that he needed to like go back to work and do his job because he got obsessed with the game. And this game is cut. They cut the game completely. And the founder who founded ZeniMax Online Studios 18 years ago left this morning. He quit. He didn't get canned. They let him stay, and then he just quit on his own volition. He's like, F this, basically. So you have a game that had been in development for 7 years. By all accounts, the head honchos at Xbox really liked it and thought it was coming together, and then they just cut it out of nowhere and just burned 7 years of video game development. That's the thing that really strikes me about all this stuff.
I think they're afraid of the game as a service thing now.
Yeah, maybe Sony learned the lesson for them. I don't know. But look, they have great data because they have Game Pass, and there's tons of games as a service on Game Pass. In fact, one of the games we're talking about today is the game as a service that was on Game Pass.
Oh, yeah, but I guess like a shooter an online multiplayer like kind of MMO shooter, like I understand why you'd have cold feet on that at this point. But again, by the time that came out, who knows what the situation
is. It could have all changed.
It could all turn around again. But like the time might be right by the time if it's really good, why not let it ride and see what
see if it turns out. I mean, you've waited all this time.
Like there's no other way to make games. That's the problem is, and I mean, obviously that probably cost them a lot of money to make that over 7 years because of the nature of the size of the team and all that stuff and assets and all that. But like, you don't get Halo without Marathon and without Pathways into Darkness, and you don't get
you need that iteration.
You don't get Quake without Doom, and you don't get Street Fighter 2 without Street Fighter. You have to have the smaller, jankier shit before you get to the like you don't get Mario Odyssey without Super Mario Brothers.
No, you're right. You have to like take steps before you can.
Or just regular Mario Brothers, for God's sake, try to go back and play that again.
Right.
Like it's.
No, you're right.
It's just you're never gonna have another $1 billion IP.
You're never gonna go from 0 to 1,000.
No one's ever done it. It's never happened.
You're right.
It has never ever happened.
Yeah.
The biggest stuff comes from the small. Call of Duty came from Medal of Honor, which came from a little PlayStation 1 game that was just sort of something Steven Spielberg said, hey, why don't we do this? And it's like, it's not like Steven Spielberg is small potatoes or anything, but like Medal of Honor 1 sure was. It was a shooter, a first-person shooter on the PlayStation 1, which was crazy. Like the idea of putting a shooter on the PlayStation 1 was nuts at the time.
Yeah.
but it had like it used like cinematic level, like presentation. It was like one of the first DreamWorks games.
Yeah.
And that's where Call of Duty comes from.
Like
without that, you don't have Call of Duty. And it's like, if you aren't funding these small little projects, you're never going to get what those investors are demanding or what the C-suite is demanding. Like, that's where it comes from. It comes from that kind of, not grassroots, but it's like the equivalent of grassroots for these major corporations. And the more they kill that, the more they're just going to sit here with these stagnant things that can't cut it anymore.
The MMO getting cut showed me that there were games cut not because they were bad.
No, definitely not.
That they were cutting games that they actually thought were good, which is where things start to get squirrely to me.
Well, and then it makes you wonder what all the unannounced stuff was.
It also makes me wonder how much of this was a mandate on high at Microsoft, where they're like, look, I don't care if that MMO, what you were addicted to it for 3 weeks. I don't give an F.
Yeah, we got to lose
X amount of dollars,
this much.
and you figure out where it comes from, buddy. If you think that MMO is your least profitable, then cut it. And that's probably what happened.
Like you want to cut everything out of Rare except Sea of Thieves, because Sea of Thieves makes you money every day. There you go.
Yep, and that's probably what happened for the most part.
I feel like that's probably Rare is basically a Sea of Thieves support team now.
And what happens when no one cares about that anymore?
Yeah.
There's more. John Romero. He started his own studio, Romero Games. He was working on an exclusive. Bless you. He was working on an exclusive shooter for Xbox and PC. And at first, they cut his funding and basically said, we're not going to fund the project anymore. And in day one, he was like, oh, my studio's going under. And everybody reported that Romero Games was going under, and everybody lost their jobs. And then the next day, apparently some publishers approached him and said, hey, maybe we can take a look at that thing you've been working on, and maybe we can publish that game for you. But then you wonder, like, how messy it gets with Microsoft having funded the first X amount of development, and, like, it's going to be hard to figure out how another publisher comes in and works on that. But
you probably just pay Microsoft what
the money that it wants for it or something.
Well, and Romero said something about how like he had a meeting with Microsoft about the game like 2 days or before the layoffs, and said
it never
nothing.
Said anything. That is so dirty, man.
If the people he met with even knew,
because he went back to his team and was like, "Our meeting went great. They loved the game. Full steam ahead."
What makes you wonder if the people he met with from Microsoft even knew,
right?
Like how compartmentalized was this?
I mean, I doubt they did, because these cuts went company wide.
Yeah.
And so they probably didn't know, or they're told, like, don't talk about this. You just need to go into your meetings. Like, I've had to do that kind of stuff where we knew cuts were coming, and I even had to lay off some people that were on my teams, and I had to go into meetings and act like nothing was happening. And it is the worst position you can ever be put in as a manager.
One time we knew some cuts were like some big layoffs were coming. It was after the show had gone daily, and we doubled the size of the team, and the format just wasn't working. It wasn't working for a number of reasons, partly because it was running this ragged, but also because it was just not getting the ratings to justify it. So we knew that there were big layoffs coming, and they intentionally sent me out. I didn't really go out in the field much at that point because I was just keeping the day-to-day rolling. They sent me out in the field to do interviews.
Red flag.
They sent me out in the field to do interviews at it was for Singularity, that BioShock in Russia thing. Yeah. And halfway through the interviews, my phone started exploding because I think they got me out of the building specifically because they knew I would be a pain in the ass.
Oh yeah, you'd probably raise a ruckus about it.
And apparently what happened was they split everyone who was being kept went in one room, and everyone who was being fired went in another room, and all the people in the room being kept didn't see me and like lost their minds.
Wow.
And I'm like, no, I'm at Activision doing an interview. And I was fine. They weren't firing me, but I was like everybody was freaking out that they were getting rid of me, and I'm like, no, they put me off campus so I couldn't like yell at anybody.
There's really no good way to do that stuff. No. I mean, layoffs suck. That's all there is to it. Telling somebody that they no longer have a job is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. Particularly when you know they're good people who worked really hard. Yeah,
I've never had to do that, luckily, because I always refused to take management positions.
Yeah, it's it's one of the hardest days I've ever had at work. And then again, it's like it's coming because you've been talking with the C-level folks about it. I was never C-level; I was a VP, so they were telling me what to do. So I'm in meetings with the C-level folks, and they're telling me these cuts are coming. You need to figure out X number of your people that are going to be cut, and I have to go into an editorial meeting 3 hours later and talk about of someone doing a review, and I know that person is not going to be there to do the review, and I have to just sit there and like go along with it. awful.
All those, even when they're positive meetings, those meetings are horrible.
Right.
I remember having meetings with people, those people at one point, and like one of them, like one of the head people, like asked some like it was like, well, because we're proposing this thing. I don't think it ever really happened, but it was another show block and some revamping of some of the content and stuff. And they were kind of like leaning on me to do it because it's going to be more game focused and more, they were kind of giving us a shot to do something that was more gamer oriented and like more the way we thought it should be done. And the head corporate guy asked something about like, you're like, well, what if we did it like this way, whatever? And it was something like, just I don't remember what it was, but it was like logistically, I remember it was like, I don't even know where do we begin doing that. And I look over at my boss and his boss. They're on the other side of the table over here, and I kind of glance at them, and they both go, and I'm just like, and so I look back at the corporate guy, and I go, yeah, we could figure something out. And it's just like, wait, what? Yeah. No, I can't. I don't even know where I'm like, I would need 10 more people to do that. And it's just like, it's just that shit like that happens all the time.
It does.
And I'm sure this is
and we're the
no
ones that have to deal with it. I was the one who had to deliver the news.
It's just a matter of scale.
It's like, you want to cut these people? You tell them. Oh, no, that's your job. No. You're their manager. You need to be the bad guy.
I got to go to lunch.
It's not like I have to manage the rest of your team after everybody's gone. It's like,
I just have to blame you for the low output after they're all demoralized.
Exactly. Yep, and that's what happens. I mean, I think what is making people reach the end of their rope. It's like these cuts suck, but both of us are like, yeah, the two of them make sense. I think what really people are just getting pissed off about is that they've just reached the end of their rope with the executives making bad decisions. For example, greenlighting Everwild, greenlighting Perfect Dark,
letting them
ride for 7 years, and then bailing, and then firing the people who have busted their ass for the last 7 years instead of the person who made the bad decision.
At some point, why don't you just like admit you've made a poor decision. This isn't working out. Let's stop this project and have you guys do something else.
And you fire the person who made the call.
Right. But the people, but all the people that
all
the people that ran the companies into this. I mean, are we going to talk about Phil Spencer at some point? Anyone?
I mean, you don't need to talk to me about Phil Spencer.
No, I know I don't need to talk to you about Phil Spencer.
You've been watching GameFace for a long time. You know how I feel about Phil Spencer.
Like, I try to give Phil Spencer, like, the benefit of the doubt as much as I can, but it really just feels like even when he kind of, like, it feels like, oh, we're on the right path, and then, like, a few months later, you're like, oh, no.
No, you're not, actually.
We're not. That's...
Because there was a moment where I was second-guessing myself about Phil. Remember, 2 years ago, I was like, maybe I was wrong. Saying that they should have fired him all this time because Game Pass sounds like a good idea.
Game Pass is working out, and he's acquiring the right things, and then
Yep.
And there wasn't really a compelling reason legally to stop the Activision purchase. But yeah, that really was a bad thing for everyone in the end, wasn't it?
It hasn't really worked out. There's more though. So we mentioned Romero Games. That's still in flux. That game may still survive, which would be great. But there's the whole team at Blizzard that was working on Warcraft Rumble was let go. All new content for that game has ceased. And believe it or not, they laid off people working on Candy Crush. The biggest cash cow.
Of all the things you think you're safe on.
I mean, the biggest cash cow maybe in the history of video games. And they cut people from that team. So, I don't know what's going to happen there. Are they just going to not put out as many updates? Or maybe that's where the AI is going to come in. Because let's be honest, AI might be able to develop Candy Crush.
Yeah, well, especially because the people, no offense to any of the Candy Crush people out there. I mean, players out
Packer
there.
loves Candy Crush.
But they're not going to fucking notice.
They will never know.
Yeah.
It's just an algorithm.
No one's going to be like, this is exactly like level 1,124. It's like, no, it's just...
It's just an algorithm. That's all it is math at this point, making new content for Candy Crush. But anyway, they also lost their team, or lost a big chunk of their team. Now, a couple ex-executives from Microsoft have been saying stuff since this all happened. The original founder of Arcane, Rafael Colantino, he said, I think Game Pass is an unsustainable model that has been increasingly damaging the industry for a decade, subsidized by Microsoft's infinite money. But at some point, reality has to hit. I don't think Game Pass can coexist with other models. They'll either kill everything else or give up.
It's interesting. I mean, it's an interesting perspective, and he's not the only developer I know who has believes something similar. Mm-hmm. I don't 100% see the relevance here.
Yeah.
Because I don't think this happened because of Game Pass. I think it happened because Microsoft is going all in on this AI thing.
Maybe. That's a great segue to our next quote. So, former Xbox producer Matt Turnbull, he worked on Crackdown 3, State of Decay 2, and the Forza Motorsport franchise.
Well, yeah, did anything happen with Undead Labs?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that.
I heard some rumblings about that, but I didn't ever hear any actual...
We're going to talk about some other stuff here in just a second. So Matt Turnbull, who I just mentioned worked on those 3 franchises, he suggested to the laid-off employees at Microsoft that they use AI for career planning and emotional clarity after losing their jobs.
And I'm pretty sure the post was written with AI.
Maybe.
It reads like it.
Well, he got absolutely roasted by everybody.
And rightly so. That post is one of the most amazing examples of LinkedIn brain I have ever seen. Mm-hmm. There's not reading a room, and there's that.
Yeah.
That is basically the Titan submersible of posts. Wow.
That's a great analogy. Suggesting that people who were just laid off use AI for emotional clarity.
Yeah, it's like a therapy bot. Bro,
Ooh.
Of all the times someone would have been better off just staying quiet.
Yeah.
That's some top 5 shit.
Yep. Now, going back to the comment from the founder of Arcane, Rafael Colantonio, during the discovery process, during the big FTC challenge to the Activision Blizzard acquisition, Microsoft stated in those documents that it had a goal to have 100 million Game Pass subscribers by 2030. So we're 5 years away from that right now. And there's only 35 million.
Right. Well, there's a lot of unrealistic beliefs.
They have 5 more years to go.
If the lightning round holds, we will get to another unrealistic belief about how many people are going to play something. And
what?
I don't know what to tell you. I mean,
I know.
This kind of goes back to when Square thought that Tomb Raider was going to sell triple what Tomb Raider's ever sold in the history of the franchise, and were considered it a failure. And it's like, no, that's not. I'm talking about, in case we don't get to it, I'm talking about the fact that apparently EA expects the new Battlefield to have 100 million players. Not at launch, over the course of the game's life, at post-launch. I'm like, but the top, the most played Battlefield of all time had 33 million players.
Yeah.
You expect this thing to get triple that?
Yeah.
In this day and age? What?
With free-to-play games and...
But it's but again, the people who are making these absurd expectations and goals are not the people who are going to get fired for it.
Yeah.
It's fucking ridiculous.
It's the people who are working on the game. Yep. So one thing, people were like, okay, well, if these cuts happen, what other games are going to get cut? And so Microsoft issued a statement that said, look, everything that was in our not E3 showcase in early June, that's all safe. So any game in there is A-okay. So Black Ops 7, Forza Horizon 6, Fable, Gears of War E-Day?
Yeah.
And the Halo remake or whatever that they're working on. Whatever the Halo thing is that they're doing, most people think is a remake of the first Halo. Those are all safe. So, because they were mentioned at the end, even though they weren't shown, they were mentioned at the end of the thing.
And clearly Horizon, what are they up to? 6?
6, yeah.
Yeah, clearly Horizon 6 exists.
That's definitely
somewhere.
coming. I mean, you'd be an idiot. It just sold like gangbusters on PS5, Forza Horizon 5. That's definitely happening. Clockwork Revolution, definitely still coming, not going to be cut. Ninja Gaiden 4, definitely coming. Outer Worlds 2, definitely coming. But OD from Kojima, everybody was like, well, wait a minute. They had to issue a statement about that because people were like, well, that game hasn't really been shown. Nobody knows what it is. Why wouldn't you cut that?
Maybe that's why Kojima's been so cranky lately.
But imagine if you cut Kojima's exclusive, how the fans would have lost their minds.
Yeah, although, is that really going to matter financially that much? Do you lose... yeah, you're going to get a lot of people yelling at you online, but, is that going to lose you a ton of sales?
Probably not. Really? I mean, we don't know what this game seems bizarre and weird. I mean, it's Kojima, so of course it is.
Yeah.
But still, even by his standards, this game seems even more strange. But
But also, this game feels like it has that same Everwild thing of like, are you still looking for the game?
Right. Or is this just some weird idea you came up with while you were drinking one night?
Yeah, you just made a list of like actors you wanted to hang out with and like decided to do this.
But they came out and said this game is safe. So that seems to be a little bit of them just sort of edging over towards Kojima and thinking that just him being involved makes it worth saving.
Khalib Twelly makes a good point. The fact that the Xbox Showcase titles are all safe shows how premeditated the cuts were.
They knew
not
before
done
that.
sloppily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the high levels knew.
Oh, I definitely.
For a long time.
I'm 1,000% sure about that. No doubt about that. Absolutely. So OD is safe, which is Kojima's upcoming Xbox exclusive we know pretty much nothing about.
Is it?
That's what they said. Yeah, they issued a statement saying that it is not going to be cut. It's not going to be canceled. Now, that could change, because who knows what the heck the game is and if it's going to be something that's worth playing or not.
I mean, some of that might depend on Death Stranding 2's sales.
Which, as of right now, aren't looking so great.
We don't really... I mean, it did not chart very well in the UK, but that's not including digital copies.
Still no announcement from Sony.
Yeah, there hasn't even been a this many players playing it thing.
Nope. It's not looking good. We'll see. So anyway, it looks like OD is safe, but there's a bunch of other games that we're not sure about. And I'm going to go through a list of games, Matt, and you tell me whether you think these games are going to live or die. So we'll have a little bit of fun here. We don't have too many, but the first...
I don't know if it's fun to predicting whether these people were going to have employment or not going forward, but
yeah, I hear you.
Definitely.
I could have phrased it a little more sensitively for sure. I apologize, by the way. First up, State of Decay 3.
I think that's dead.
I think it's dead.
Not undead, unfortunately.
Right, yeah.
But because this was already having trouble and like weird shit with that company.
Well, Undead Labs, here's the thing. Undead Labs was angry that they were too hands-off, that Microsoft had bought them and were not managing the studio. And so the studio heads were running wild and being jerks. And this might be really the root of kind of all these problems here, Matt, is that Microsoft is almost too hands-off. It let Rare languish with Everwild for almost a decade.
Yeah, if you have no milestones to meet, then there you go.
How do you stay on track?
I was talking with some people about, and we'll get to the Neil Druckmann thing, but they were like, oh, well, clearly, like, he's leaving because they're going past part 2 of the game. And I'm like, well, no, all these people, by the way, have never played the games.
Right.
So I'm like, well, no, like they've already said, and the showrunner, Craig Mazin, has already said it's going to take 2 more seasons to finish the first second game. And that's going to take them 4 years. And by the time Intergalactic, like, you probably have part 3, the game, written by the time they need to start shooting season 5.
Yeah.
Right? In like 2030 or something.
Right.
You know? And they started being skeptical about whether Naughty Dog will actually get games out in that amount of time. And I'm like, Naughty Dog gets... I mean, obviously they had a speed bump with Factions, but like that was a different thing. And like, but Naughty Dog gets stuff out in a timely manner. And one of them was like, okay, I mean, I'm sure George R. R. Martin will have the last 2 books out by the time. I'm like, if George R. R. Martin had Mark Cerny on his ass, we would have both of those books by now. That I assure you.
But this game, we haven't seen any of the gameplay.
So I think having that top-down sort of like milestone and demand, and I wonder how much of that is like no guidance from the top, so that when you do have contact with the top about, well, what have you got? It's not something the top likes at all, and it's like, oh, this isn't what we wanted, and it's like, well, we didn't know, like we were just making what we thought we were going to make. Where you been? So that could be part of it.
We've been sending you emails where no one's responding.
Yeah, it could, everyone kind of assumes that Microsoft is being weird and micromanaging and like ruining everything with notes and stuff. It can always also be the opposite.
Yeah, just too much hands off.
Because in the end, if where the rubber meets the road is whether the people holding the purse strings like what you made or not, and if you have no guidance, you might make something they hate, and that's going to be a problem too.
Yeah.
But this project, I mean, I like State of Decay. I thought, and 2, I went back to 2 like last year at one point, and it's really amazing how, with all the patches and they've done, they kind of, these games have launched pretty broken.
Yeah.
But like after about 3 years, they're really good, and like it's remarkable how involved. And my brother-in-law plays it all the time, and he's shown me kind of his like the base he has and all these
he's built like a mall.
It's really impressive.
It's
the zombie game that my friend, like I had a group in like the old AOL chat, and one of them was a huge zombie person, and he used to dream. He would describe his dream zombie game. It's literally State of Decay, and like I hope somewhere he's playing it now. And it would be cool to keep going and see like what's happening with it. I mean, the State of Decay 2 was a great advancement over the first one, and I would love to see what a third one would be.
But it was, to your point, it was busted at launch.
Busted.
And I guarantee you, Microsoft is looking at that and being like, do we want to go through that process again?
It was like the third or fourth time that I parked my car, went into the base, came out, and my car was gone, and I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah, I just gave up. The bugs were too much for me to handle. And I just wonder if Microsoft is looking at that and being like, well, we know what's going to happen here. They'll get it done in 2 years. It'll go through 2 years of updates once it's live. People will hate it. A small amount of people will slowly trickle back to the game as it's improved. And does that move the needle for us? It probably doesn't.
Probably not.
So I agree with you.
I mean, even if it launches in perfect condition, it probably doesn't move the needle for them because it's not really a mass appeal game.
It's just not a franchise that sells really, really well. It has a dedicated fan base for sure, but it just hasn't sold on its own.
Yeah, it is a very cool thing.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those games where you're like, oh, I'm glad this exists. I don't really know why it exists, but I'm glad it exists.
I agree with you. I think it's going to be cut. Next up, the Toys for Bob platformer, which most people think is going to be Spyro 4. Although Toys for Bob over the last week has started talking about Banjo-Kazooie, so it could be one or the other. So
now that they don't have Rare left, someone's got to make. I mean, I think Toys for Bob is pretty safe because no one else in Microsoft stable makes anything like this.
Well,
stuff.
Don't forget, Toys for Bob isn't actually a part of Microsoft anymore. They actually got rid of Toys for Bob, but then signed a contract with Toys for Bob to make a game.
Well, that was interesting to me because in hindsight now, because it's like, because Toys for Bob, people don't realize maybe sometimes have been around forever. They've been around since the early 90s. They made Star Control.
Right.
When I was in high school.
Yeah.
Like they've consistently been this company since then. And it's like, are the Toys for Bob guys, the people run that company, so savvy that they saw what this was and were like, we want out.
Maybe.
Like maybe. Like I think anyone who can keep a company running for almost 40 years
has kind of figured stuff
probably
out. Can read the tea leaves.
Probably does read the room. Probably wouldn't have made that AI therapy post.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't have. Yeah.
So like I'm beginning to wonder if like Toys for Bob, the bosses at Toys for Bob were the smartest men in the room at that point.
It's possible. Do you think that their game is safe?
I think they've got a pretty good shot. And of course, even if it doesn't work out, they can always go somewhere else because they're not. Their existence isn't beholden.
Yeah, they may not
Microsoft.
be able to shop the IP, but they can repurpose what they build.
Well, don't they own Spyro now? I thought they got Spyro back.
No, It's owned by Activision, isn't it?
Yeah, but I thought they made some deal with that. Maybe not.
I say it's 50-50 where Microsoft finishes off the contract with Toys for Bob.
I think they're gonna do it. It might end up being Banjo. Like they might pivot from Spyro because I don't think Spyro is really a gold mine here.
Yeah.
But
Banjo probably isn't either. Really,
probably isn't. But people would care more about the return of an actual Banjo platformer than Spyro.
I agree with that. Yep. So I give it a 50-50 whether whatever game Toys for Bob is working on actually gets released, or if it ends up being repurposed with some other publisher. I give it a 50-50 chance. Next up, you may not even remember this one. A lot of people don't. It's a game called Contraband. It is under development by Avalanche Studios, the Avalanche that does the Just Cause franchise. And it is a...
Does the Avalanche that did Disney Infinity even exist anymore?
I don't think
so. Salt Lake City one?
I think they're gone.
They're gone. They are gone.
I think they're gone,
right.
Yeah. So this Avalanche Studios is working on basically Just Cause set in the 70s, and you're a smuggler. And it's called Contraband. Like, they only put out, like, I think maybe a teaser trailer that's like a second long or something. Like, they haven't really promoted it much. They announced it, and we haven't heard much about it since. So what do you think about that game?
I don't know. I mean, those guys are pros, so... And it's more of a game that, like, it's pretty easy sell to something. I don't know. I don't know. I'm like on the rep of Avalanche. Like, I would say maybe probably pretty good odds that it still exists because they need something.
I think it still exists. We're just saying, is it gonna get cut eventually?
I don't know.
Will it be in the next round? I think it probably will be.
Well, then what are they gonna release?
What do you mean?
Microsoft.
Avalanche? Oh, I don't know. That's the other thing.
You can't cut all your games because you have nothing to put out.
That's
then you're going to be right back where you were last generation.
You're right. I had it in the back of my mind. And look, Matt Booty says that they have 40 games in development or whatever. Okay. I went back and looked, and there's like 12 that are like big games that people would be really excited about. You just cut 2 of them. You start cutting more. Suddenly you're down to like 7 or 8 games that you're working on. You're right. You almost are coming back full circle back to the old Xbox again. So it doesn't have as many games. I thought it had like an embarrassment of riches of games where it could be like, oh, we can cut 2 or 3 and no one will ever notice. It's really not that way. I think people will actually notice.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that we don't know about internally.
Right.
But, like, who knows how many of those were cut just now.
Are there 28 of them?
Because we know that unannounced stuff was killed.
Uh-huh.
So
they did, yeah, that did come out in the wash. It just feels like the winds are shifting with consumers. Like, we've felt this way for a while. It feels like finally the people who buy games are starting to figure out the whole C-suite swindle, basically, where you have these people making the decisions. They're often bad decisions. They keep their jobs and get a $10 million bonus, while the people who actually did the work that they told them to do are the ones who lose their jobs. I think a lot of people are starting to understand that now and are starting to get fed up with it. Because the backlash I've seen to this on SIFTD has been insane. Like, there have been separate stories on SIFTD for every game. So when the ZeniMax thing, the Initiative thing, everything had and all of them have blown up with comments. Like, it wasn't people went to just the article that kind of summarized everything. They went to each individual canceled product and had something to say about it. People are pissed. And I've never seen it like this. I feel like there's definitely been a shift in some way here with
in the enthusiast side, yeah. Mainstream people don't
even know what happened.
Really know. I mean, tell them that, and they're not. Obviously they've had contact with that sort of behavior in other their own industry or other. Tell any nurse about this, and they'll be like, I recognize that in the healthcare world. It's just how everything works at this point. But it's like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that matters really. They're still going to do what they do. My guess is that they expect the stuff they've cut is stuff they think they can replicate with Gen AI.
That would be really
with like
really
a skeleton
stupid.
With a skeleton crew of prompters and like kind of like guiders.
Yeah, because here's the thing, Matt. Other than the
bot
initiative,
lickers, we call them.
Yeah. Because a lot of these teams and projects, they weren't like teams that had never delivered on anything or had never made games. Like the ZeniMax studio has made a successful MMO that has run for like 2 decades. Like they know what they're doing.
How many people did they cut off for that?
They didn't say. I didn't see.
We don't know how much.
I didn't see any specific numbers for that.
Because some of it is like, well, because like it would also be in character to sort of just kill the Blackbird project and be like, all you people just keep working on this thing that keeps making us money.
Yeah.
Like we don't want to take risks with this. We want to just keep making money through Elder Scrolls Online. I mean, that's kind of Bethesda's sort of bread and butter now. Is like basically Bethesda.
Fallout 76.
Yeah, Fallout 76 and Elder Scrolls Online just kind
of. That's
where the money
keeps coming from. It really is. Yeah.
The bottom line on the balance sheet doesn't really care about Starfield.
I don't know if the balance sheet matters anymore because like they don't sell their games anymore. It's really hard to figure out whether something's successful or not within that framework.
Right. Well, I mean, who knows? Supposedly the AI initiative internally at Microsoft is $80 billion. What in the world is going to make that money back? Is that a 20-year plan? Like, where is that revenue coming back from?
I don't know. I mean, you're very lucky. They're very lucky that it's Microsoft, which literally has more money than it knows what to do with. But ultimately, what it feels like to me is that there is the cause of all of this feels like it was just Microsoft out to lunch. Like it is just it was like a dereliction of duty as far as it managing its studios and managing its first party portfolio. It feels like it's just completely dropped the ball.
Yeah. Well, did they have the infrastructure to manage all that? Like, did they buy all these studios and just not hire anybody in the Microsoft side to sort of like run that? I
mean, my guess is they tapped somebody internally and said, "You're the point man now. You're the one who's." I mean, it's Matt Booty, isn't it?
I guess, but Matt Booty can't supervise like 40 different developers.
They need more. But you know what? PlayStation is the same thing. They have one guy that like handles all their first-party studios.
But Mark Cerny's crazy.
Well, it's not him even.
No. But he seems to do everything.
He handles the technology.
Right.
He drives their hardware.
But he's got opinions on shit too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they listen to him. He's really smart, so you'd be stupid to not listen to him. But they have one guy who manages all their studios. I don't know why the model is set up this way. It is, and I think you're right, Matt. I don't think you can do that anymore.
But he's got people under him.
Yeah.
Like there's a team there. Yeah. Does Microsoft have a team?
I'm sure Matt Booty has reports.
Yeah, but is it enough to run that kind of
doesn't
thing
look like
built?
It? Or do they know what they're doing? Are his reports good enough?
Because the only thing, I mean, everyone I've known over the years at Microsoft doesn't work there anymore.
Me too. Well, the last few that I knew just got laid off.
But it just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Even the people that work at corporate or were in PR or were, and I get, like, slowly and quietly, they just sort of get smaller and smaller and smaller. And every one of them, I go, well, who took your job? No one took my job. My job doesn't exist anymore. Yep. It's like, what do you? It's not like Microsoft got any smaller in terms of what it needs to do. So it's right back to that thing. It's like, well, this thing doesn't work. Well, because no one does that job anymore.
That's also the easiest way to lay people off, to tell them that their job has been eliminated. And then once they're gone, you just rehire somebody into the role.
Right, but some of those departments are still that small.
Yeah, that's true.
And like, there's departments where you're like, this should be much bigger now that you acquired half the fucking industry. You know, like in terms of studio count. And it's not there.
I mean, you need a machine to manage that machine.
Right.
You do.
Well,
that's how big it is.
Well, it sounds like maybe that machine might end up being, they're going to try to use Gen AI.
If you have 40 games in development, there is no way one dude can keep track of all those projects.
You need one dude assigned to each thing.
I would say one really good person could maybe handle 5 projects. Maybe.
But like, with some of the, I mean, you probably want your own person on Rare, considering how weird they are. You want probably one person has a full-time job on the Perfect Dark project because it's not working right.
Into a disaster.
One person has a fulltime job trying to get Undead Labs to stop trying to stab each other. Like, it's like,
no, you're right.
Like, you know, there's a lot of problems there. You know, you probably don't need someone working full-time on Toys for Bob's contract because they know what they're doing.
And they're reliable. They deliver on time. They just delivered a game a couple years ago, Crash Bandicoot.
And they're smart enough to look at everything happening in front of them and go,
get
nope.
the hell out. All right, I think it's time for us to check in with you guys. All I got to say is that this week on SIFTD, y'all have been breathing fire over this, and I mean it. First of all, let's see here. LeBeau, I think that's how you pronounce it. 100 SEK, that's incredible. Thank you. Vitamin C, thank you for another $10. If I remember correctly, didn't you donate something last week too?
Yeah.
Thank you. That's freaking awesome. I really appreciate that. In fact, let's give it a little like here. There you go. There's another one. Here's another one for you, LeBeau. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that. And again, a reminder that if you want us to respond to something, always go at SIFTD Games in the chat so we can find it. Vincent says, there's another super chat in YouTube if you scroll up. Okay. I'll do that. Oh, Curtis O'Neill. Thank you. Is that $14 Canadian? Is that what that is? Thank you, Curtis O'Neill. That is flipping awesome. I'll give you a like as well. See what else we got going on here. See if there's anything else up here. Nope, doesn't look like it. Thanks, guys. Very generous. We appreciate it very much. Sub Jam Sam says, my Series X literally bricked after warranty. I've not heard about anything like that, Xbox Series X.
Mine either, but I don't remember the last time I turned it on.
Right.
So.
Well, I do use mine. Ethemon says, most of this is Microsoft trying to play fetch with AI and punishing the Xbox division because they don't want to tell investors AI will never work.
Yep.
Cinetike says, do you think Microsoft is holding Phil and Booty in their roles just as a screen to make them take the blame while Microsoft are the ones dictating everything? I mean, that's corporate America in a nutshell.
They are definitely giving them quotas to meet, and that's just they have to figure out what to cut where. I mean, that's their issue, their problem basically to solve. But yeah, the what ETH is talking about, trying to make fetch happen with AI, that is a Microsoft-wide initiative. So yes, I'm sure that is basically what's happening.
It has part to do with it. Yep, for sure.
Not that. Again, there is a scenario where the Xbox Studio world was run so well that taking an axe to all these places didn't make any sense. But that is not the world that Phil Spencer has built.
Yeah. So I have a question on YouTube we're going to answer from Diol. Do y'all trust that Fable footage after what happened with Perfect Dark?
Yeah, mostly, because it doesn't actually show anything.
I mean, there's like, if you actually chop out the gameplay from those trailers, it amounts to like 18 seconds.
Yeah, there's not a lot there.
So it wouldn't be too hard to just, hey, here's 5 seconds here, 3 seconds there.
Because that's the thing is, Fable so far has not tried to show us what that Perfect Dark demo shows.
You're right. It hasn't tried to show you how it plays.
There has been no vertical slice of Fable yet. Which
is a whole other reason for alarm, actually. So yeah, that's what I would say. And then we go over back to Twitch. AJ the Legend Watson says, as a developer, How do you approach a publisher honestly to advise a project should be terminated as opposed to continuing to go down a path of releasing a product you feel will ultimately fail? Well, as a developer, you're never going to tell the publisher you think the game's going to fail, because that means you're going to lose the contract.
Yeah, that's just not your job.
You let the publisher decide that. Now,
maybe if you're the head of the studio, you have that conversation with
them.
But like generally this kind of thing you don't want to go from the bottom up on that. You don't want to be like, hey, we think this thing we're working on sucks and we should stop doing it. It's not the thing you want to say to your boss. Usually.
You don't want to cancel a project if you're a developer.
I have done that. There have been a couple things where it was mostly marketing stuff though, where the thing they gave us was so early that I'm like, I'm just telling you right now, we shouldn't do this because I guarantee you the client doesn't want this to be seen by the public. And that actually did work. But in terms of this project that you've spent tens of millions of dollars, if not more, on over the course of however many years, and we've got 100 people working on it, and now I'm just going to tell you, like, hey, this thing's not going to work. Why don't you just cancel that? We'll come up with something else for you. That's not a thing you do.
I mean, you're basically getting your people fired. So you're going to ride it out until they decide.
There might be times when you have the studio head has a relationship with the corporate overlord, with maybe one of those people, one of the C-suite people that you can kind of like take him out for drinks and be like, hey, bro, like,
this ain't working.
This isn't working. We might want to pivot to a different project, as soon as we can kind of justify it. And that probably does work sometimes.
I hope that doesn't happen, but it probably does.
I'm sure it does. I'm 100% sure it does.
Quickster says Microsoft bought a quarter of the industry just to fire half of them, and it will hardly register for them.
Like, also, I think that like what AJ is talking about there is probably a lot more feasible before something is announced.
Yeah.
Like, if something hasn't been announced publicly, you probably can have that conversation more productively.
Yeah.
But once the public knows that you're making Perfect Dark, it's much harder to walk back on.
Oh, for sure. That's why it's probably smart to not announce crap until it's like about to release.
100%.
Noxatornitis says, my main annoyance with Microsoft has been and continues to be they're just disruptors to the industry without a plan. I don't feel they've added much by doing so. I mean, look, you can play a grip of awesome video games every month for $20. Like, if you're just looking at it from a consumer's perspective, Microsoft has kind of been awesome in the short term.
Yeah, if you don't know about any of this, it's just like, oh, new stuff to play pops up all the time.
For like no money.
For nothing. I'm already, just for what I'm already paying.
Somebody pointed out on SIFTD this week, and I apologize that I'm
always surprised how many people I know who are just super casual players, they all have Game Pass.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Because somebody on SIFTD, and I'm sorry.
And they don't have PlayStation Plus Extra because none of them know what the fuck that is.
Yeah.
The messaging on that has been very bad.
Oh. Well, look, I'm sorry that I don't remember who said this on the site, but somebody said it on the site this week. And they were saying that basically the casual player won't get Game Pass because the casual player spends like, they buy 2 games a year basically and spend like $140, $150 dollars a year on games. And if you have Game Pass, you spend way more per year on Game Pass than you would on just buying those 2 games. And so for the really casual player, they really have to think about it.
That's only for a solo. Like, most of the people I know who have Game Pass that are like super casual, Game Pass is there so their kids can use it. Like, the kids can, the age restriction stuff is in place. The kids can go on and just install whatever the hell looks interesting to them.
That makes
the
perfect
Game Pass
sense.
Thing. And it costs them no extra.
Yeah, I can see that.
That is basically the appeal.
Because if you do have kids, you're spending more. You're buying more than 2 games a year.
Yeah,
if they're into games,
and it's worth it. Like someone like me, it's worth it because I buy more than 2 games a year.
Oh, it's definitely worth it for me. I make my money back on Game Pass every single month.
Everyone
mile.
That's the thing that they all love is like I can just set the age restriction thing, so no M-rated games, and just let my kids go nuts on this huge library, and they never run out of stuff to play, and then they immediately go back to Roblox.
Yeah.
So
I mean, my younger nieces and nephews, they play Roblox and Fortnite. That's pretty much it. That's really all they play.
But they like it's funny. Like a lot of my friends that have kids, the kids like to experiment and look at new things, but they always go back to whatever
Roblox is kind of like Game Pass anyway.
Roblox, Fortnite. There's another one that's another one of those.
Because Fortnite
like,
has like 5
things.
games inside it now. Like these are platforms where they can do more than just play the one thing. Where they can just sample a bunch of random stuff and it's goofy and.
Well, and you can traumatize Darth Vader with like weird shit all the time.
Yeah, but look, there's like a Lego game inside Fortnite. There's a racing game inside Fortnite. There's Rock Band inside Fortnite now.
They've done a good job of like trying to make it so like, why would you ever leave Fortnite?
And there's another topic we're going to discuss a little later on in the show that is tied into that, as far as like what the kids are doing and where the money's going that the kids used to spend on video games.
It kind of makes me wonder. Like, there's an element of Pleasure Island to it. There's a moment of like where you're waiting for the kids to turn into donkeys.
No, you're right. I hear you. Yep. Khalib Twilai says Microsoft was always pretending to be a games company. Many Sony and Nintendo fanboys hate Microsoft for that reason. This news validates that feeling a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest. Like when they first entered the market with the first Xbox, I was like, what? Like why? Like why is Microsoft jumping in here?
Yeah, well, the real answer is that Bill Gates said we need to own it. Like we control the interactive gaming space at all costs was what he told that team.
Yeah,
and
here we are all these years.
And they were ready for it to take multiple generations. But and it looked like with Xbox 360, it looked like they were on the way, and then they didn't. I mean, I think that goal is out of reach. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think they're ever going to snatch the crown from Sony unless Sony does something incredibly stupid.
Yep.
And even if Sony does do something incredibly stupid, I think Nintendo fills that space, and I just don't see Microsoft doing it.
I don't either.
So there's a question of what they're doing here. I don't want Sony to have no competition.
Me either. It's already bad enough
because I don't
see competition.
Because I don't see anyone else stepping into those shoes. And like Nintendo isn't that and doesn't want to be that, and they're probably right to not do that, given what's right for them. I mean, like they could do it, but like, why would you? You know. So I don't know.
Supreme Bum comes off the top rope with his first ever chat message on GameFace with a really good one. He reminds us that Avalanche actually made Hogwarts Legacy.
That's right. Yeah.
So, and did an amazing job.
So I'm going to say maybe you do let that survive because it is Hogwarts.
Because it's coming from that.
Hogwarts Legacy was the top-selling game of its year.
I know.
Let's not blame them for Warner Brothers being so stupid as to not follow up on that.
Yeah.
Like they didn't even do any real DLC or there's no like. Like how
they just released it for Switch and Switch 2 and
like I'm not a fan of J.K. Rowling or anything, but it's like
they could have milked that for a lot more
Why
money.
didn't you?
They could have.
It's the best-selling game of the year.
It sold like 20-some million
and they did
units.
nothing.
I know. And then they wonder why they're going out of business.
Right. Games. Well, I mean, part of that is that Warner, Zaslav and them, they want to drive the value down enough that they can sell these things off.
Yeah.
So, you'll probably see Warner Brothers games sold off soon enough. Anyway.
J. Reed Vic 7 says Xbox went from extremely hands-on during the OG Xbox and 360 era to being completely hands-off since Phil took over in the Xbox One generation. Redfall was a perfect illustration of modern Xbox. They didn't cancel it and let it languish, then put it out, and we're surprised at the blowback. Great comment, J. Reed Vic. Yep, you nailed it. Fire Native says Microsoft's new strategy is if you can't beat them, buy them, then shut them down. That way someone else doesn't have a great game you don't have. I don't know if that's what Microsoft's doing. I don't think they're trying to keep other games from other publishers.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to assign malice where incompetence is an entirely fine explanation.
Yeah, I don't think Microsoft trying to be evil. I just think they're incompetent. Yeah. They just can't do it. They can't
Microsoft can be evil. No question.
Yeah.
I think there's some truth to that in terms of why they bought Activision. But also they just wanted a giant fountain of money that would last forever. So
AJ with another good question. These days, what is considered moving the needle for Microsoft? How do you even move the needle at Microsoft? It's so big. I don't even know
if there is a needle.
How do they? I mean, it's almost to the point where you don't even notice the Xbox division.
I think they fired the needle. The needle was laid off.
Yeah, maybe
it's just a blank dial now.
Yeah. And then Spillage Village says, also R&D expenses are not as lucrative from a franchise tax investor's perspective. You have to wait to fully write off R&D expenses for years. Less incentive for long-time horizon R&D initiatives. I'm seeing similar cuts in my industry for same reasons.
Yeah.
Good comment, Spillage Village. Let's see if anybody jumped in here at the end. Although, wait, somebody...
I do wonder how much of this is some sort of precipitant from, like, the Concord failure and kind of, like, the obvious shift away from game as a service stuff.
Sony learned some lessons for other publishers.
They did.
There's no doubt.
Well, and even, I mean, even with Marvel Rivals doing as well it did out of the gate, it's kind of losing it now.
Yeah.
Like Marvel Rivals is not doing great.
It's starting to dip a little bit. I think there was another one. Bill Gates took all the needles with him. The big spaghetti too.
That's a solid joke. That's a solid vaccination joke.
Yeah, we know Noxious that Contraband and Hogwarts are not the same. Matt and I had said that the other Avalanche had dissolved, and it didn't dissolve. It had made Hogwarts Legacy. That's why we were correcting ourselves. Sleeping Turtle 3. Do you think Perfect Dark is officially dead? Never coming as a fan. Was hoping this would be a revival like Tomb Raider 10 years ago. Bummer.
Oh, it's dead.
It's dead. It's dead.
Oh, it's dead.
Yeah, it's not coming back. Then let's jump over to YouTube. LeBeau, who gave us the awesome donation. Thank you again, LeBeau. I buy like 2 games a year. Playing Shadows now. We'll be playing it for months. Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming he's talking about Assassin's Creed Shadows. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I get that'll take you a while.
Yeah, I mean, even core gamers at this point, games are so big. I wonder how many games core gamers are buying in a year at this point.
Not a ton.
Like 6.
Or you're waiting for like big sales.
Mm-hmm.
Like
yeah.
Like basically, like most of the people I know who still play like regularly, they'll choose their big game for like full price. Like Shadows is one. And a lot of people are still playing Shadows, and they're like, I'll pick up the other stuff I'm interested in, like when it's on sale later this year. A bunch of people I know just picked up Outlaws, like when it went on sale after the DLC came out. Mm-hmm. So they're like, okay, now I'll get the Game of the Year edition or whatever, and play it that way. Especially now that was a good call specifically in that game because they fixed so much with patches over the course of the year. And like there's people like what was the thing, like one guy I know who was like he's playing Shadows, and he expects Shadows to last him to go see Yotei. And he's gonna play Ghost Yotei. He's gonna play Ghost Yotei until next year.
Oh, wow.
And it's just like, yeah, probably.
That's a whole lot of ninja.
Yeah, that's a stabby.
Yeah, that's a lot of it. Yeah. Well, anyway, there you go. Here's the thing, like that topic, we talked about it for a long time, but it's not just about the Xbox layoffs. It's about the industry in general. This stretches out way beyond
30,000 jobs that have gone away in the last 2 years.
Vincent actually has a question. Will Microsoft spin off Xbox in the next 10 years? Should it?
I don't know. I don't know what they're doing.
I don't think it should.
Probably not.
If they manage their business correctly, it can make a ton of money off of the studios.
I think Xbox becomes a brand more than anything.
Yeah.
I know they're apparently making new hardware for the next generation or whatever, but I really think it's going to be kind of a branded PC. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be like a branded like Dell kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I know Dell isn't really a thing anymore, but it's like I don't know a modern boutique PC builder, in the same way that a Rogue is, or some equivalent of that.
Yeah.
And I imagine that's what the Xbox will be, and they'll probably be like some kind of like revamp of the Series X into the equivalent of an S, and they'll still put out the licensed handheld stuff.
I don't think Microsoft's going to make another console. I think it's going to partner for every piece of hardware from here on out. I think the AMD is going to build the next console. It's going to let AMD make all the money or not make any money off of it. Let it take the risk. It's like they'll work on the specs with AMD, make sure that it'll run all its games. And
the S equivalent will just be the Series X repackaged.
Yep, that'd be my guess, in a smaller form factor. Yeah, so we'll see. But I think Microsoft would be dumb to spin off the Xbox business. Talking in 10 years... It's hard to say what'll be happening in 10 years. Yeah. I mean, maybe Game Pass by then does catch on and it's at 100 million subscribers. Who knows? I'd be surprised if that happens, but...
We'll see what the HAL 9000 tells them to do by then.
Because that feels like that's exactly what's happening here. So anyway, there you go. That's our discussion on the big Xbox layoffs of July 2025. I hope this is the last round.
It's not.
It's not. It's just going to keep happening.
And probably the last round for Microsoft for a while, but it's,
I mean, it's just the beginning of AI taking people's jobs.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to get really bad.
Very bad.
My big question is, like, what's going to happen when AI and robotics have taken all the jobs?
You're going to be limited to stuff that basically only humans can do.
That's what I'm asking.
Manual labor. Yeah. Trades.
But even like the robots now, they're starting to like make like robots that like go into the Amazon warehouses and pick out all the orders.
But I'm talking like you can't like a robot can't really build a house. A robot can't fix your plumbing. A robot can't do that. Basically.
But my point is like those industries are full. Like where do people go who lost all their? What are they going to do? What are all these people going to do?
Rise up and slay?
I mean, honestly, if you really think about the future, it feels like everyone, think about 50 years from now. Not 5 or 10, like 50. What jobs are people going to be doing? is it just going to be where people just stay home and the government just sends them a check so they can buy food and survive?
I mean, that is probably what will have to happen if some of these scenarios play out, like people saying like 50% of white collar jobs will go away.
Right.
I don't know what else the outcome, but I'll tell you what I think the outcome will be. I think the outcome will be that all this Gen AI stuff is a giant grift. It's all bullshit. Again, the people who pushed NFTs are the same people pushing this, and they did not suddenly make a real product.
That's why I mentioned 50 years ago.
I think a bunch of
by then it could be, maybe AI at that point is something that can reason and learn.
It won't be.
Yeah, I mean, once you get into quantum mechanics and quantum physics, like
right, but that's still just computing. It's still just math.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is still ones and zeros too.
We don't understand.
Binary.
We don't really know what determines consciousness. A computer has yet to, create something new. A computer, in the same way, like
can repurpose what it already has.
It's just anthropomorphism for the most. It's like the teaching apes sign language thing. Like it's not, those apes don't actually ask questions. They don't have a sense of that. They're doing something they've been trained to do to make sure they get the food and all this stuff, and we are sort of reading off of them. And I mean, basically people who work with sign language apes are doing cold readings the same way psychics, quote unquote psychics do all the time. So the AI, I mean, the best example I've seen, it was a college professor who put googly eyes on a pencil and was popping the pencil around in front of the students, like, "Hi, I'm Pencil, and I'm Penny, and I do this, and I help students write essays," like doing like a Mr. Hanky kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then the middle of it, he grabs it and just snaps it in half. And the whole class goes,
because he's personified.
Yeah, and
he
pencil. Goes, "That's AI. That's Gen AI."
Yeah,
you're all anthropomorphizing this thing that has. It's not real. We are so good at giving. We are failing the Turing test. Not the Gen AI.
Yeah, funny.
And and like you're gonna find out eventually that you can't create. It can't create anything. It's an algorithm. It can't do anything new. It cannot adapt to circumstances. It cannot innovate. And without new input, and you're already seeing this with the image generators, it just starts to feed into itself and take its own data, and it's starting to scrape the internet and find so much AI-generated content. That's why all the AI-generated images you see right now have that weird yellow tint to them. Have you noticed that?
It's like sepia.
It's because of the Studio Ghibli trend a few months ago.
Right.
It's just regurgitating all that, and they're already trying to figure out ways to get rid of that. But like that's what's going to happen. It's going to be beholden to the stuff that's already been made because it can't do something new, and that is not going to be functional.
Kind of the same way. It's like I've gone through life and I've seen a bunch of art, watched a bunch of movies, watched a bunch of cartoons, listened to a bunch of music. All that stuff shades the art that I make.
Yeah, but
like if you said like, "Shane, draw a cartoon of yourself," all the cartoons I've seen throughout my life would influence what I drew.
But if there were no cartoons, if there were no drawings, you could sit down and draw.
Right. Yeah.
That's the difference.
No, you're right, but AI still takes influences to create things.
AI does not take influences.
What do you mean?
It takes input.
But
it's not the same
for me. Looking at something is input
That's
for
just
me.
what you call it. It's not the same thing. Influence is not the same thing. Influence is changing how you think about what you're trying to make. You're trying to make this thing, and something you liked and something else is like, "Oh, I'm going to be influenced by that Blur album," to throw back to that, because I want to throw something that sounds like that into this song I'm going to make. AI doesn't do that. AI is just making a giant collage that's so big and kind of flattened down.
Well, the difference is you have to tell
it
what to do instead of it thinking on its own. Like instead of it saying, "I want to make a song that sounds like Blur," you have to tell it, "Make a song that sounds like Blur."
Right. And the only way it can do that is by taking that song that Blur made and basically slapping.
But the human's doing the same thing.
But it's not, because you're not.
You're listening to the chord progressions, the effects pedals are using.
But you have to still do it.
Yeah.
The AI is literally taking that actual thing and layering other shit over it until we as humans can't really tell it's not what it used to be. You are not doing that. You are taking the data and outputting something new. That's
Here's
not
something
the same
interesting.
thing.
So there's programs where you can put a song into them, and it will break it all up. It'll create a separate track for the drums, separate track for the guitars, bass, vocals.
I think that's pretty cool. And that, again...
No, let me finish.
That's not AI,
So
though.
let me finish. So if you take a song that AI made and you put it into that same program, it cannot separate the music like it does with real music that humans made. it has problems. Like the keyboards and the guitars get jumbled together.
Because it's a collage.
Because it hasn't laid down those tracks separately like they record music. It's pretty interesting. But anyway,
and because it's just mixing tons of existing audio.
We could talk about
together.
AI for like 8 hours.
Oh, sure.
So we really could.
Because it's not creating a new song. It's just mixing existing audio. Because you can't separate those audio tracks. It's all mixed into a jumble.
It's all one thing. Yeah.
Because it's not creating something
separate
new.
Concepts,
An actual something that worked the way a human creative brain works would lay those tracks down separately.
Right.
Would decide, I want the drums to sound like this. I want the keyboard to sound like this. And it would do it that way. And it's telling that even after you do something like that, musicians and people working with these prompt things, actually musicians don't do this because they can actually play music, much like people who can actually draw don't need AI. Even if you tell the AI to like separate that out, it can't do that because that's not how it constructs that song.
Yeah, it's interesting. But anyway, I mean, it's just
and
interesting
again,
to think about.
That lack of granularity, that lack of the ability to do that lack of the ability to create something the way you need it created to kind of function with it and make it something new and make it something copyrightable, which is also important. That is going to torpedo this like way they think AI can replace human beings. Because again, it probably can replace human beings in terms of putting out slop that people don't notice. Like Candy Crush levels probably don't need to be made by humans, sad as that is.
Yeah, it's true.
But at a certain point, you're going to get to things where like, think about how much trouble we've had with like legacy code that the people who made that stuff don't exist, are dead, or like aren't around in that, don't do anything anymore, or don't remember how they made anything. And now you've got an AI that made all this stuff, and the AI not only doesn't see the problem with what's happening or what the code is, it has to give you an answer, so it might just be lying to you. Yeah. And it's not intentionally lying to you, it's just wrong. But but how do you solve that problem 5 years from now if you don't have any people doing anything?
I do think in 50 years, I don't think we can even fathom what kind of technology is going to be here. That's kind of why I mentioned it, because I think they're going to keep striving to do this, and eventually you're right, they're going to realize that what we're doing right now is trash and it's not sustainable, but then they're just going to double down and be like, okay, well, that didn't work, but we can take some things we learned from that, and then we're making this new thing, and we'll see if the new thing. Yeah.
The other thing to remember. The other thing to remember is that someone did at some point make an actual AI, not Gen AI, but an actual AI that is smart, that is conscious enough, sentient enough to actually make something new. That AI is probably also smart enough to not do that,
right? Because it's like F you,
because it knows
that you're like
that would be bad for if I were that AI, the last thing I would want are for the humans to realize that I was conscious. And I think an AI with that much access an AI would need, of that caliber would need to be with that much access to the data of humanity, would know we would not react well to that.
Probably so.
And that is how you get I have no mouth and I must scream. So, good luck, everybody.
All right, we're going to cap it there. That's our discussion. And again, as you just saw, this just spans out beyond Xbox. It is just a topic that will affect almost everything in our lives eventually. So, something to think about, and something Matt and I obviously do think about.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to having arguments with the equation that runs my next car.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I don't want to. It's like, wouldn't you like, no, just fucking stop.
Just do what I told you to and shut up. All right. We're about to give our final thoughts on Death Stranding 2, but before we do that, here's a word from our sponsor, the Repair.app. Cracked phone screen, stuck zipper, busted bike, borked HDMI port, persnickety PlayStation? Don't toss it, boss it with the Repair app. The mission is to build a world where repair is the norm, not the exception. Snap a pic, describe the issue, and find local pros ready to fix it fast. It's not a marketplace, it's a movement that saves your stuff, your sanity, and the planet. No fees, no credit cards, no data collection, no stress. Just fast and fabulous fixes. Track your items and the repairs, log warranties, build a repair history, and become the hero your stuff deserves. Fight landfill guilt, save some cash, and support local business all at the same time. And best of all, it's free. Join the Repair app waiting list today at therepair.app and be among the first to get access. Fix it, keep it, repeat, because trash is so last century. Okay, so a couple things that I screwed up last week that I need to fix about the Repair.app. First of all, when you take a picture and write a description, it does not actually send that out to local fix-it places. it gives you a list of local fix-it places, and then you get to choose which place you want to work with, and then you start that going back and forth. So that's a caveat that I needed to clarify for this week's episode of GameFace. And then the other thing, too, is the URL. So one of the big questions we had after last week's show is, what actually is the URL? And this is it. And it's in the ad in the bottom left the whole time, and it's in the ad at the end, but I realize a lot of you guys just listen to the show and you don't watch the show. So the URL is the repair, THEREPAIR .app, A-P-P, therepair.app. And again, I mentioned this last week, we have all these crazy extensions now for URLs. Like I said, .app is an extension that you can use, which is really cool, but I think a lot of people struggle to connect those dots. So again, sign up for the Repair app by going to the repair, R-E-P-A-I-R .app, therepair.app. Let's save the world, people. I hope that they can get, I'm not 100% sure of the launch date for the app yet, but I'm right on the fringe here. This iPhone 12, let me see where my battery's at. It's actually doing okay today because I closed a bunch of my windows, basically. But my phone dies halfway. Like, I hope the Repair app can launch before I go to buy a new phone, so I can find someplace local where they can replace the battery. I don't even know if you can do that yet, but that's why you want to go to the Repair.app. They can tell you. You can talk to local repair people. They'll be able to tell you whether they can fix it or not. Is going to be a godsend. And again, this applies to so much stuff. Just think about, like, your favorite jacket that the zipper broke in, and you've had it in your closet for the last 3 years because you're like, I love that jacket, I can't wear it anymore, but maybe someday I'll fix it. The Repair app is gonna save your ass. You're gonna be able to fix stuff. Old jeans that you love that fit just perfect, that the zipper broke or it's jammed or what, all this kind of stuff you can revive with the Repair app. Or if you're like me and you just want a new battery for your damn iPhone, you'll be able to do that as well. Again, go to therepair.app, sign up. You'll be one of the first people to know when everything launches, whenever you're going to be able to get all your stuff fixed. Go to the repair.app. All right. Next up, we're going to give our final impressions of Death Stranding 2, because against our better predilections, Matt, both you and I continued to play Death Stranding 2 for the last week. A lot of it has to do with the fact that there weren't any other games to play, really. But then the other thing I would say, Matt, is that I'm just enjoying this way more than the first Death Stranding. I almost hate to admit it, but it's the truth. I like this way more.
It's just a lot easier. It's a lot easier to play.
It really is. Like, it's much easier to just keep playing. I mean, it does feel kind of one note and samey. And it's still very tedious, and it can be very annoying. Like, the issues I've had is the game has worn on is the cargo destruction. It's almost like it's a glitch. Like, I've noticed that, like, if my vehicle just kind of slams down on the ground, everything breaks.
Yeah, it depends, and it's very inconsistent. The vehicle physics are better, for sure.
For driving a mile better. Yeah.
Like last night, I pulled out of the animal shelter, and I was driving back to the road, and I hit something.
I had the same
rock
problem
or
in
something,
that area.
and you see all the
red flash
cargo,
red
flashes, and I checked the cargo, and all the breakable shit was damaged 70% off that one. Like, I ran over like a pebble.
I get this little cutscene where the whole thing explodes.
Now the I've never had that happen, but the good thing is you just reload the last save,
right?
And it saves all the time, so it's fine.
Yeah,
but like,
you don't lose a lot of progress.
The breakable stuff is annoying.
Yeah, it almost seems like a glitch to me.
It's definitely inconsistent.
Yeah.
I get around that basically by just using the freeway.
Yeah.
Like, as long as you're on the freeway.
But like that area that you're talking about,
sometimes
there's no freeway through there.
No, but you can like kind of pave again as you drive back and forth, and it kind of paves the road.
Right.
It gets less. Honestly, one of the most annoying things in terms of that has been where it leaves vehicles from other players like in the middle of the fucking street, and you're like, or. One thing I do appreciate that if you accidentally run over an animal, you lose 100 likes. If you accidentally kill another human porter because they're walking in the middle of the fucking street, you'll lose 10 likes. And I'm like, all right, I appreciate that, Kojima. That is correct. I'll go. You running over an echidna is way worse than running over that dipshit over there who didn't know enough to get off the road. Yeah, it's weird, and I mean, again, I have built a freeway system and a monorail system to shame the gods in this game.
I hate the monorail system in this game.
It's so weird.
It is so typical of this franchise.
Yeah. It's one of those, like, going through the monorail stuff, I'm just like, this is something that's going to be way better in Death Stranding 3. Like, all the new stuff is sort of like, this doesn't really work very well.
It's like, no, I should just be able to get on the monorail with all my stuff and my vehicle and just go to the other location.
Nope, you're going to go make a sandwich.
No. What the hell?
You can jump off whenever you want, but then all your stuff just goes to the next thing.
I was so afraid to even use it because I'm like, oh my god, am I going to lose everything that I'm carrying?
No, they all go to the destination, but if you jump off at the wrong time, you got to walk back.
But the way the game sets it up, I was scared to put my stuff on there because it felt like I needed to load every individual thing from my inventory onto the tram. Do you not have to? Can you just get on it?
Yeah, you just get on it.
Because they give you a warning.
Anything that's on your back stays on your back.
Because the warning is what scares me. Like,
What's
this little
warning?
thing pops up. It's like, well, if you don't do this, then this is going to happen. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm going to lose all my stuff.
No, anything that's on your back will come with you as long as you get on the monorail.
And then it's not even fast travel. You have to sit and watch your travel the whole way on the monorail. It's just like...
It's still faster, but like...
It's just
dumb. The important thing about the monorail is it's constantly shuttling raw materials to the location, so you always have raw materials to get from those places.
That's why it's important. And you can also load it with just tons and tons of stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, people have definitely fucked up, like what you're talking about. Like, I've gone to some of them, because like, if anyone loses cargo, it shows up in other players' games. Mm-hmm. And I've gone into some of the mines and stuff, and there's thousands of like just... I have more special alloys in the private locker of that one mine because that's the first mine you open. And so like, or the first or second, I think. And people just screw it up or the first mine with a monorail. Yeah. And they screw it up and it gets dumped there and it just ends up there it's lost cargo. And I just take all of it and shove it in the private locker. And so I have tens of thousands of special alloys in that one mine because that's where everybody fucks up the monorail. I
don't even know where some of the stuff is coming from a lot of the time. Like, I'm like, man, I have more stuff than I'd ever need to make anything.
Well, like I say, building roads is expensive. Especially, one of the key things is you got to wait until you've activated the chiral network in an area, because that way you'll get other players donating to it, and like you won't have to do it all yourself. It's like, you look at it when it's not on the network and it's like, oh my god, 3,800 metals and 4,800 ceramics. Yeah. And then like when you activate the network, it's like, oh, now it needs 500 and 280. Right. I was like, oh, guys, no problem. Cheaper. So I've been doing that. I did not realize that for a long time in the first game, where I was just like throwing thousands of stuff in, and I realized about halfway through that game, I realized like, oh, if I just wait until I get that part on the network, it's one thing that doesn't seem to be in this game that was in the first game was there were places in the first game like preppers that you weren't sent to in as part of the story. Yeah. And there were parts of the map that were blank unless you actively sought out these other people and like there was the first prepper guy was like, he was part of the pizza side quest. There was Matt Mercer was a guy you could find who was a big fan of he's a big fan of the mascot for Kojima Productions, like the skull and the astronaut suit thing, like that. I can't. What was his name? Luden or something like that.
Yeah, I think that is it. Ludens, I think. Yeah, Ludens.
Good pull there. Matt Mercer is literally called the Ludens fan or fanboy or something. You can find him, and the only way to get all the stuff on the network is to find these hidden preppers. Those do not seem to be in this game.
Interesting.
I have not seen a missing section of the map yet where I'm like, oh, that's not, I'm way past that and that part's still blank. I should go that hasn't happened yet, which is interesting. Because that was really annoying.
Have you fought the stand-in for Solid Snake yet?
Oh yeah.
You fought that boss fight?
Oh yeah.
Did you find it weird that they tell you who he is before you go to that whole by the way, that whole scene is amazing. Like, technically, with the sparks and everything. Oh, yeah.
That's one of the most impressive things I've ever seen.
Holy crap. But they tell you who that guy is. You go and you do the battle and you fight him and you win. But they never, recognize that you know who he is. Sam never says, oh, you're blah, blah, blah. And, you just fight him and you win and then you just go on your way. Did you find that odd?
When does he know who he is?
Well...
the third time?
No, the first time you know who he is. Before, at least I did. Yeah, you know what? I think it may have been an optional cutscene that I watched at the bridge of the ship that shows you who he is. I don't want to spoil anything here on the show.
Will they tell you his name?
I don't know if they tell you his name, but you know who he is. There's a huge cutscene where he falls off a ship.
Huh?
I don't want to ruin it.
Well, because like after the second encounter with him,
there's a cutscene that explains who he is, and in the cutscene, he falls off a ship and gets taken away. I don't want to say anymore.
Yeah.
So that's who he is. That's who the guy is. That's who the snake guy is that you fight later on.
Right.
Yeah.
But Sam doesn't know who he is.
Yeah, he does, because he experiences the cutscene. He talks to the guy who tells him the story about what happened, and they show the cutscene of what happened. Do you remember the cutscene I'm talking about? Where the guy slips and slides off the ship, and the other guy tries to save him, and he gets dragged into the water? You may have just missed that. Okay.
Yeah,
well,
Tarman. George, the guy who directed Mad Max. The guy who steers the ship.
He's not the one that goes into the water, but he's
his son.
Yes. Oh, you just.
That's not him. That's not who that is.
It looks identical to him.
It's not him.
Really?
No. They reveal who he is later, and it's someone from... I mean, Sam... He is related to Sam, but it's Sam's past, but it's not him.
He looks identical.
Well, when they reveal who he is...
So it's a juke?
Tarman... I don't think you're supposed to think those two guys look the same.
They look identical.
They do not.
They do.
Tarman does not react to the reveal of who that guy is. And I think he'd react to the idea to the reveal of his son.
He's not there, though.
He's on the bridge when they reveal who the guy is. They're all there when they talk about that.
Well, he's the one that tells the story.
No, this is a different scene later. After the second time you fight the Solid Snake guy. The Solid Snake guy is someone completely different from before the Death Stranding.
He looks identical to the guy's son.
The guy's son, I mean, he looks a little like him, but it's not the same guy.
Really?
No.
Wow. That blows my mind.
No, that's not him.
Oh, wow.
Also, I should note, Sam still wouldn't know what he looks like because...
He only tells him the story.
He tells him the story.
Right.
Doesn't show him a picture
That's a good
of him.
point, actually. Yeah, that's a good point.
But that's not him.
Interesting. Huh. It looks identical to me.
It's too young to be him.
Well, I mean, time's passed or whatever. I mean, in this game, you have no idea what stuff's happening.
I don't think you've gotten to the scene I'm talking about.
Maybe not.
Because this guy is very tied into who Sam is.
Okay.
Like, it's very... Like, have you gotten the explanation of why they call the place that he got sent to Nirvana?
Yes.
Which was really dumb.
Yeah.
Because it's... Yeah?
Yeah. I think so.
No, because it's not actually Nirvana?
Then maybe not.
No, then you're not. You haven't fought him the second time?
I have not, no.
Okay, so that after you fight him the second time, because it's exactly the same as the first game with Mads Mikkelsen. You go to these weird locations and you have this fight where you fight his guys and then he runs away and you have to go track him down and then you fight him again and like the fourth or fifth time he finally gets killed and you go talk to him, you get a thing, you go back and you talk
to him. I thought the first time I fought him he was dead, his corpse was laying there.
He is, and he's gonna be back again. Like that. I mean, same thing happened with Mads Mikkelsen.
Well, you said he runs away.
He runs away until like you kill him like the fourth or fifth time, and then he really finally dies, and you usually get a thing, and then you get zapped back to the real world, and like no time has passed in the real world, but you've been gone in this battlefield. Same thing happened in the first game with Mads Mikkelsen.
But wait, you do that again? You go to an alternate reality again?
Several times.
So you go back to the real world, and do your thing, and then you end up
and eventually another tar fall happens, which is when the thing...
And okay. Then, I haven't made it
where the tar person comes out and drags him way up and he disappears. And that happens again to a totally different location, which... I think Expedition 33 people will recognize a little bit. If there's a certain section of that I was reminded of in that second one.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they made those two characters look so similar then.
I think the actors just look kind of similar.
Huh, crazy.
Those are not the same people as far as
I thought they were.
As I know.
Interesting. Okay.
It's just mostly it's just funny that he's dressed exactly like Solid Snake and has nothing to do with Solid Snake.
I mean, it's just so desperate to me.
Like, I don't know why you do that.
Because, like, in the context of the story, why does he do that?
So, I think I do. I think I do know why. Yeah. Because of who he is to Sam. If I extrapolate that out to how Kojima feels like Sam might feel about Solid Snake, being Sam's Kojima's current new protagonist... And there's sort of an element of like having this sort of feeling of like resentment and jealousy against the old protagonist. the role that character plays in Sam's past could theoretically be a parallel to that. So I wonder if he did it because he's like, oh, Sam probably is jealous and hates this guy. So I bet he'd also be jealous and hate the guy because he was like my protagonist before him. Like it was. I see. So I think that's sort of the theme he's going for. Don't quote me because obviously it's a Kojima game. This could all change in the next fucking cutscene. Like, I don't know.
Are you shocked that there has been literally like, I mean, personally, I see no discussion about this game
there's
anywhere.
Not much.
Whether I'm on 4 different social media platforms, no one talks about it on SIFTD.
I've seen one. I saw Sunny Legend put up one of his famous gifs of him martial arts killing like 40 dudes or something because if you do all the pizza delivery stuff, you basically learn how to do all this kung fu shit, which lets you fight hand to hand really effectively. Which is not something I was expecting from the game, but hey, it's kind of fun.
I mean, melee works pretty well if you just jam the C button. You can kill enemies with the
once you get the
circle button.
Once you get those moves, like he can take on like 15 dudes.
Oh, really?
Like he gets a roundhouse kick that can hit everybody in the front arc.
Leon style.
Oh yeah, Leon is a good comparison. I'm a little bit disappointed he doesn't suplex anybody, honestly. But no, definitely do the pizza chef stuff. Like you get some real useful rewards from that.
So now that you spent more time playing it, how has your opinion of it changed as you've spent more time with it, if at all?
I mean, it's pretty much like you said. I like playing it. I don't like it when it talks to me.
Yeah. But even the playing of it, it's not. I don't know that I would say that I like it. It's like I almost fall into like a trance where I just keep. Just doing this same kind of entertaining but mostly boring thing over and over. And a lot of it, I mean, I'll be honest with you, if there was another good game to play, I would not have played more of this game. I definitely wouldn't have. And I still find myself like struggling to continue in a lot of cases. But I've played way more of this than I played of the first game. I had already played way more when I talked to you about it last week, and now I've tacked on another like 10 or 15 hours to it. And now I've played this probably 3 or 4 times more than I played the first game. So there's something about it that has made it more palatable to me. My guess is that's probably going to be the case for most people. But as far as my impressions changing from last week to this week, not much has changed. Like pretty much everything I said last week still holds true now.
Yeah, the Tarman's son is Jacob Bond, and the Solid Snake guy is Luca Marinelli.
As far as the actors, you're saying?
Yeah.
They are portrayed?
There are two different actors, but they do... I mean, they could be related. They are similar-looking people.
I mean, I just, like, that to me, it was like, this is Kojima. This is, like, going to show me this little cutscene, and now here I am fighting this guy, and it's the same dude, but something happened to him that I don't know about yet.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it's not an unreasonable assumption in terms of both Kojima and the fact that, like, you know, Tarman's kid gets sucked into the tar, and then this guy's in the tar.
And he's covered in tar. And he has this little army with him now.
Yeah.
Right.
But also, like, he's exactly Mads Mikkelsen the first game.
Yeah.
Like, this is... I don't know if you got far enough.
I probably didn't make it that far enough to even draw that parallel.
That's exactly what happens like 4 or 5 times in the first game is you get zapped into this other world, and Mads Mikkelsen is there, and in the first game it's different wars through history. I think it's World War I, World War II, and Vietnam. And you're there, and there's all these ghost people running around having the war, and then Mads Mikkelsen shows up covered in tar, and he's got his 4 bros with him with skull faces, and they go after you. And you show up and you fight them, and you have to kill the 4 bros, and then you hit him up more, and he goes, oh, and then he like zaps away. And in the first game, he leaves footprints everywhere, and in this game, he leaves like an energy trail, and you have to track him to where he goes. Which is easier in this one because Dollman basically tells you where he went all the time. In the first game, you had to track him.
I actually had the audio down during that fight, but you can. He also leaves footprints though too.
Yeah, you have a clear trail, and you go follow them, and then the next place he's got his bros back, and you've killed. So Mads Mikkelsen, it happens 3 different times with Mads Mikkelsen, and the 3rd time finally, and he dies every time. He does die. Like you kill him,
then he miraculously comes.
He tries to grab BB, and then he falls over and dies, and you grab his dog tags, I think, in the first game, and come back and be like, who is, and they figure out who his name is Cliff Unger, I think, in that, and then like they start to figure out who he is, and like you piece that together because he also shows up in the memories you get from BB, etc., etc. And that guy, of course, turns out to have a very important connection to Sam, And this guy also has a very important connection to Sama, though in a very different way, and not a positive way, really. But
one thing I did notice that changed a little bit from when I first talked about it to the time I spent playing it this week, is that the enemies, it feels like as the game wears on, they can see a lot farther. I have enemies shooting me from, like, I don't know, 400 yards away.
The guys you run into further east are definitely better at what they do.
They'll be more adept with their guns, but they're still pushovers. Like, I just run straight at them and just shoot them in the face.
Yeah,
like,
especially as long as you just run through them, they're not going to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, the combat in this is like a means to an end.
I have never died in this.
Yeah, it's very hard to die. Yeah.
And there's a bunch of skills you can get that like give you second chance. I'm like, I'd love to see what that looks like, but I've never come close to getting killed. As long as you carry enough blood bags with you, you're fine.
Do feel like you may want to play this on the higher difficulty levels.
Maybe.
Because it really presented like no challenge to me at all. Other than the frustration of like the cargo blowing up when it shouldn't blow up.
The challenge is to deliver your 14th thing of the night without falling asleep on the highway. Like, I have literally done that a couple of times. I'm getting highway hypnosis from this fucking thing.
Yeah. I'm actually wondering if more people in our chat have now played this game than had last week, which was like none. Like, I couldn't believe last week that nobody had played Death Stranding 2 in our chat. Like, it blew my mind. There was a couple people that I saw on the site since we did the episode that were a little angry that we were... Sneaky Solid Snake was a little pissed off that we went after Metal Gear fans.
The Kojima fans are pretty weird. Someone compared them to... I did see someone compare them to the Snyder cult. Kojima fans are not nearly as bad as the Zack Snyder people. No. I mean...
Well, the funny thing about Sneaky is that he has no problem going after other people.
Oh, yeah.
But anytime somebody goes after him, he's offended. So a lot of people are that way, to be fair.
Right, but it is a little extra funny with Sneaky just because, like...
Well, his name.
Well, it's that, but also because first he claimed it wasn't a reference to that.
Right.
But also because he's never heard of anything.
Yeah. So he is very bizarre.
Yeah, very, very, very narrow.
Yeah.
He's
had interesting experiences with games for sure. So anyway, I'm surprised that none of you guys, even this week on SIFTD, people are talking about
I know a lot of even the people I know outside of this show, they're like I'd play it, but it's not on PC. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of people aren't playing it because it's not on PC.
Yeah.
So
which is crazy, but
imagine when it hits PC, there'll be a little more discussion.
Yeah, but I think for me personally, like my recommendation remains the same. Everything I said last week, I've continued to play it, but it hasn't really swayed me in one way or the other. Like I'm still just kind of like in this mid zone where I'm like, I'm kind of enjoying it, but am I?
Yeah.
Or am I doing this because I have nothing else to play and I've conditioned myself that I need to play video games constantly at this point?
I mean, that is certainly what the handheld people would have you believe.
I mean,
I don't know. I don't dislike it. Mm-hmm. I mostly enjoy kind of the running around and I like opening up new areas and building new roads and now you can upgrade the roads. I'm like, oh, that'd be cool to be able to just drive that fast everywhere.
Yeah. Because the fast travel sucks.
Fast travel does suck because you can't take anything with you. Like it's so weird. Like it's like, oh, I can finally teleport places. Great. Yeah. No, but you can't actually take anything with you. I'm like, well, then what's the fucking point?
I don't get it.
The other thing that I didn't realize until I'd done it a couple times ago, I would get, once you can you can move around on the ship.
Yeah.
And like just fast travel with that.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing like the mission. I'm like, oh, it'd be easy to get the cargo over here. And then I'm like, how come I'm not getting ratings? You don't get rated on the cargo missions if you use the Magellan. You get like a little Magellan logo.
I didn't realize that.
And because get the S ranking, you don't get rated on them if you use the Magellan.
I didn't realize that.
And so the couple, I'm like, how come I'm getting that weird logo instead of like an S rating? And then I'm like, and finally I read the thing that when I go to fast travel, and it's like you have cargo in the Magellan. If you deliver anything, it will not count
because
as a rating.
You didn't want to spend an hour driving somewhere.
Right, exactly.
So you're going to be punished, Matt.
Right.
Bad Matt.
One thing I have learned to do is to use the monorail for shit like that.
Yeah.
Like I take them. I'll just cargo I want to deliver somewhere. I just put it on the monorail and send it there. And then pick it up like
later.
Over there later because it's not going to get broken.
Right. Yeah.
It's safer.
Yeah,
it
is
safer.
That way. Yeah.
I do really love like driving at night in the rain and the monorails are going like with the lights on them and the big like it looks really cool.
Well, it does feel. I will say this: the game, and the more you play it, the more this is imparted on the player. It does feel like you've accomplished things in the world,
and I think it feels more alive
because the monorail is just a track for the first 20 hours of the game, and then eventually you get the monorail to work, and now the monorail's
and
constantly...
the further east you go, like I think I have 60% of Australia back online.
Yeah.
And like stuff on the East Coast is actually, there's pretty big settlements there. And like, it actually kind of feels a little cyberpunky at times.
It also becomes easier because over time, like you build a bridge. So when you first start, you have to keep going through the water to like right out of the base. Eventually you build a bridge that goes over the water, and other people start the bridge, and then you show up and give it some stuff and you finish it. And like now every time you leave home base, like you can go over that bridge. And like,
well, and I love like a little thing, like the building stuff and kind of sharing the built structure thing was the most interesting part of the first game, and it's
the same
still
thing
the best thing here.
I agree, yeah.
Like there was a thing where I had to deliver some cargo thing, and they wanted me to deliver it in 2 minutes, and I'm like, how in the world do I get up this mountain in 2 minutes?
Yeah.
And so finally I'm like, I'm just going to build a zip line all the way up the mountain. So I took like an hour. I built this, one here to here and here, because they all the zip line things have to see each other, right? So I built it all the way around and all the way up this mountain and up all the way up. I built like basically a giant Matterhorn tram all the way up the thing. And I went back and I picked the thing up and I got on the thing and I went and I landed. I got it to the thing at 1:57.
Oh my gosh!
And I'm like, Jesus Christ!
Even with all that, you barely.
With all
made
that, I
it.
barely made it. But there's no way to drive there that fast.
Oh, there's no way.
And so I'm like, okay. And then that was that was several days ago. And then I didn't play for a couple of days. And I went back yesterday and turned it on, and all those zipline things I built had thousands of likes.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because everybody was using it to complete.
Now I can just complete this mission.
And there's something very
rewarding
about that, even though, once again, it does nothing for you. Likes are useless in this game, which I'm pretty sure is intentional.
Well, yeah, I think it's a reflection of our society.
And just how silly everybody looks, like doing a thumbs up to everybody. And Heartman in this like does it to the camera a lot. Yeah. He did it like that in the first game too. I think he was Kojima's wink at the audience character. The character dies every 21 minutes. I also love that like his gimmick in the first game is that he dies every 21 minutes and then gets revived 3 minutes later. He goes to different beaches looking for his family, even though he saw his family cross over to the other side from the like they're not there anymore. I don't know what you're okay, whatever. But he in this one, it's revealed that a lot of people have what's called 21-minute syndrome, in which something happens to them every 21 minutes that they can't control. The hydrologist...
Death being the worst one.
Death is probably pretty bad, yeah. The hydrologist's one is like her stomach stops working, so she throws up every 21 minutes. And you'll start running into other people that have like weird things happen every 21 minutes, and it's just like it's a fascinating like choice to make that I'm like, I don't know what this is supposed to represent or what the point of this is, but I assume you're either going somewhere with it or it's never going to be mentioned again. And that's what it's like to play a Kojima game.
It really is, yeah. Well, look, we're going to check on you guys one last time for Death Stranding 2 to see if any of you guys have played it at this point and what you think of it.
I don't think I know anyone else playing this.
Really?
In real life. Like I
don't either. Other than you.
None of my online friends have talked about it. None of my casual gaming friends have asked about it.
Khalif Talai, DS2 sounds like an urbanist wet dream promoting public transit. What is this socialist project?
I mean, it does have a big, community sort of like, mutual aid thing going on, 100%.
Here's another thing that I discovered this week, and Vortex Complex just brought it up in our chat. He says, need PS5. Yeah. This week, I discovered that probably the majority of people on SIFTD have still not upgraded to PS5. They have a PS4 Pro, and they're waiting for PS6 to upgrade. They're going to skip the whole PS5. I was shocked to see that. So you're not alone, Vortex Complex. There's a lot of people who still don't have a PlayStation 5 and can't play this game. Cinetite says you couldn't pay me to play Death Stranding 2. Fire Native says, play the UPS sim, no thanks. And it is. It's like you deliver, and this machine comes down, and it takes your package, and it goes up on a conveyor belt, and it goes over, and it comes, and it is literally like looking at a FedEx facility. It really is. I mean, I can understand why just looking at this game, you'd be like, what? Rigor Mortis UK says, PS4 was my last console, and I used to get all of them every generation. PC is the way to go now. Age of the Legend says I'll pick up Death Stranding 2 later in the year. Hopefully you'll get it at a little bit of a cheaper rate there. Emperor Dread says I hate Heartman so much it makes me stop playing it made me stop playing the first game. Eric Carmenez, zero interest in anything Kojima. I can understand that perspective. Space Tachyon, not interested. 60 hours in the first one. It's way too boring. I agree with you, man. Like, I fell asleep one night. Maybe the night I came back from the 4th of July party. I had a couple drinks, and I fell asleep playing the game. So, yeah. There's a part of it there for sure. I can see where a lot of people may think it's boring.
I have used the auto drive a couple times to take a nap.
Yeah. Also, Space Tachyon says he's a huge MGS fan, but I'm just done with Kojima and his star worship. Fair enough. Big Smoke 82 says I like it a lot better than the first game. I'm doing what Matt has done. I'm trying to max out Mexico. I'm about to go to Australia. Okay. Khalif says Sneaky is not very shuttle. That's funny. Erebus says nope, it still looks stupid. Fair enough. Kojima, Tarman is covered in tar.
Yeah, it's not.
Every character in this is like that. Yeah.
It still has that thing where it's like, it names things the way like a Japanese thing would be named.
Starman.
No English person would do that.
What was that wrestling game?
That was
or
Pro Wrestling.
Ring King, or was it called Pro Wrestling with Starman?
Starman was the NES. Yeah, NES Pro Wrestling.
Zet Saber says, I mean, Truck Simulator is doing the same thing over and over again, but people still enjoy it. It's a good brain-off game. And that is probably a good way to describe it.
And I do like the Truck Simulator games.
Yeah, you can really turn off your brain and play those without a doubt. Fire Native, how many 4K 120 hertz TVs? If not, then why get a PS5? Yeah, I do have both, but I'm skipping the PS5
I mean,
Pro.
I have a 4K. It's not 120 hertz TV. It's 60, but it still looks good.
I have also decided that I am skipping the PS5 Pro, Matt.
All right.
Unless it comes down drastically in price, I'm not getting it. $700 is just too much.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Let's check in with our YouTube crew.
It was a dumb thing to buy.
But
I did.
I mean, if I were you, I would have bought it too.
I guess. It hasn't really done any good. I mean, obviously it looks good. This thing looks good on that. But it looks good on a regular PS5 too.
It feels like my PS5 is going to melt, but it does look pretty good. Let's see. Ernest Dog 20. Matt and Shane previously had a lengthy disagreement. I was on Shane's side. I do wish Shane would reiterate it's time like now where Matt... I don't even know what he's talking about there.
He's been complaining for a while now that apparently something I said about AI stuff is contradictory to he thinks I hate innovation, which I don't.
That's not true.
I think execution is more important than innovation.
Mm-hmm.
I've never disparaged innovation. Yeah. That's a ridiculous twisting of what I say about things. So try again next time.
Kevin S. says no interest in Death Stranding 2. Drew Bonnick says Death Stranding 2 has been a lot of fun gameplay-wise, but the impressions that the story might not be as interesting as the first. The drip feed of story only in the Magellan is kind of underwhelming right now. That is a good point, Drew Bonnick. The story does move real slow. You don't really get anything, like any real cutscenes that move the story forward until you go back to the Magellan.
Well, then they force you back because you can't make any real progress. Or there's points where you just hit a dead end and you got to go back. It just feels very stop and go. Mm-hmm. And when the story breadcrumbs are not particularly satisfying on their own, it's because it's okay, what was that for? Mm-hmm. I don't and I'm sure it'll matter later maybe, but am I supposed to keep all this in my head as we go? I mean, there's a reason it's got that the little thing where you can look up basically everything that's ever happened in the game.
Oh, right.
You're gonna forget all the stuff that happened.
Well, it also keeps popping it up throughout the course of the game. Go back and look at that thing. I'm good.
The corpus or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a couple things where make sure you look at the entry because the entry's gonna give you the code to get in the door or things like that. Kojima's never gotten over that thing where he did in Metal Gear Solid 1 where you had to look at the back of the CD case to get Meryl's frequency.
Yeah.
And then which presents a big problem with some of the re-releases. Yeah,
it's not going to work anymore.
Look at the back of the CD case. And it's what?
Is this surprising to you though that Kojima's new game doesn't feel like it's drawing a lot of interest from anybody really?
Not really. I don't
think is his day done?
I think his day was never.
Yeah.
I think his games did really well in the era where most of gaming was the core gaming audience.
Yeah.
But his games have never sold obscene. Games have never been GTA.
After the PS2 era, yeah.
Yeah. Metal Gear Solid 3 was pretty much the peak, I think. And I mean, not for me. I didn't like Metal Gear Solid 3 very much, but like in terms of
from
sort
most
of
fans,
for the fans, in terms of the hype levels, in terms of sales, in terms of just sort of the pinnacle of what he achieved in terms of pulling that out of the PS2. It felt like Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 were kind of the peak of Kojima fever.
Should you cancel OD if you're Microsoft? Look at what just happened with Death Stranding 2. No one's talking about it. The sales don't seem like they're much.
I don't know. That's the thing.
I'd be nervous.
The one what I will say about that innovation execution thing is I think a lot of times you need the second iteration to execute the innovation properly. And that was certainly true of this game.
Yeah.
And I think it's true of things that are new in this game. Like the monorail probably needs another pass.
It does.
In a number of senses.
Yeah. No pun intended.
And, you know, OD, maybe OD2 would be amazing. Maybe OD1 will be amazing. I don't know. But, like, it's a risk. You know?
That's a big risk.
It is a big risk. Well, I mean, I guess it's not a big risk if you're Microsoft because you have basically infinite money.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not a big risk. Maybe you do that just for prestige. But Microsoft doesn't really care about. That's the problem. Is it's very hard to tell what Microsoft cares about right now. Do they care about innovation? Do they care about execution? Do they care about sales? Do they care about money? Do they care what they're spending? Do they care about prestige? Do they care about winning an award? Do they care about
what do they care about?
Like, what do you want? Like, what do they want?
What's the goal?
Like, I don't know what Microsoft wants.
I hear you.
Like, I know what Nintendo wants. I know what Sony wants. I know what Ubisoft wants. Ubisoft just wants to live.
Yeah, it wants to survive.
But, like, I don't know what Microsoft wants, so it's very hard for me to say whether I think OD is going to make it to...
That's why I was unable to say whether they should have cut the initiative.
Like,
because
I just don't
we don't know what they did versus what Crystal Dynamics did on that project. They could have done the best stuff on that project, and we just don't know. So, Kevin S., I see your kind words, brother. Thank you very much for all your support throughout the years. I appreciate it, man. Really do. Thank you.
I'm the one twisting my words now to fit my narrative. No, I'm not.
No, let's not even go there.
I'm going to go there. If you even use the example, there can't be a Street Fighter 2 without a Street Fighter 1. That is execution. Again, Street Fighter 1 is not innovation. Street Fighter 1 was an execution of an idea that existed before with Karate Champ and Yi Kung Fu, for that matter. And Street Fighter 1 was a lot of ideas that just didn't come together right.
Yi Kung Fu was another game that just blatantly named everything obvious. Nunchuck. He only has nunchucks. Now
Street Fighter, you get. I mean, I'm not talking about innovation. I'm talking about like new ideas that are like new IPs.
Right.
You know, Halo was not a new idea. Halo was what you got from an execution.
It's like if you ask AI, hey, give me an idea for a video game. They're just going to use all the other video games to come up with the idea for the video game.
And then you're going to need to take whatever thing AI regurgitates at and execute on that and make it something more interesting or more new. But again, I am not anti-innovation. That's an idiotic thing to say.
Yeah.
I am pro-execution more than innovation. Do not change something just because you want it to be new.
Different.
Make it work better because it didn't work better before. That's what I'm saying. I don't know where you're getting this.
Yep, I hear you. All right, well, there you go. That is our final word on Death Stranding 2. And you guys have no words on Death Stranding 2.
It is a remarkably quiet world with Death Stranding.
It really is.
I mean, there's no shortage of people playing it in terms of, like, you know, the people you see building stuff and liking stuff, and so clearly it's functioning. There's enough people playing it to make it function in terms of the Strand system, but I do not. It really hasn't made any kind of impact in terms of, like, kind of the overall zeitgeist conversation, which say what you will about Kojima, but that usually is not the case.
Yeah. Hey, Gabriel Johansson, thank you. 200 SEK, thank you. That is freaking amazing, man. Really appreciate that. Just gave you a like there for that. Awesome, man. Again, thanks, YouTube crew. You guys are awesome. So far, the first couple weeks of working with YouTube, it has been worth all the work that I put into it. Thanks to y'all. Thanks to our community. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm really curious about, in comparison to sort of the conversation and, you know, permeation of Death Stranding 2, is how the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake is going to be received. Like, is that going to make any waves?
Because they're not touching much of that. They're leaving it pretty much as is.
And, like, even if it's just people mad, is it going to be more talked about? I don't know.
I think it will be.
You think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because, like you said earlier, it's a beloved game.
Yeah. Well, because I feel like either it's just going to be a lot of angry people, or it's going to be nothing.
I think it'll be a bunch of angry people. People who even love the original, who are like, why wouldn't you fix this?
Yeah, or why would you change them? I mean, it doesn't sound like
no matter what, you're right. It seems like people are going to be pissed. We'll see.
At the very least, it does not look the same.
That's true.
And I don't mean just because the graphics are better. I mean what they're doing aesthetically is very different.
Yeah, I changed it. Yeah.
I'm very curious because I don't have any real love for that game at all,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm very curious what people who do love that game are what they're gonna say, how they're gonna react to it.
Won't be long.
Or if they'll even touch it.
It's next month, I think, right?
In August?
I think so.
Yeah. I think so.
Believe it or not, next month is August now.
Yeah, that's right.
It's
not, I always have trouble with the June-July changeover because they both start with J.
Right. Yeah. They're just one long
letters.
month where it's too hot. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about the only new game that either one of us played this week. It is a game called Mecha Break. It is a free-to-play 6v6 mostly, but it is kind of a multiplayer suite game as a service type game where you fight with mechs. Did you get a chance to play this, Matt?
No.
I'm surprised that you weren't out ahead of me on this one, because it is kind of like multiplayer Transformers game.
Well, you said multiplayer, and that's where you lose me.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. You can also play this cooperatively.
Yeah. Again, online, don't care.
Really? So even if like they made a really awesome Transformers online game, you wouldn't play it?
No.
Really?
Probably not.
Wow. Even that wouldn't get you off the sidelines to play a multiplayer game.
I have no interest in playing with other people.
Wow. Really. That's crazy.
One of the most interesting things about the Death Stranding 2 is how many other people's names I get to see, because I never get to see other people's PSN names.
That's hilarious.
So I've seen a ton of like weird ones in there, and actually my favorite so far was "Oh no, Dale, turn left." That was my favorite. That's my favorite PSN name I've seen all through Death Stranding 2.
That's a pretty good one.
But yeah, I just don't. My days of doing that are over. I don't have any interest in that. I had no interest in that Transformers Retaliation game that got canceled either. Like,
I wonder if maybe when you start watching the B-roll, if you may be like, maybe I'm a little interested.
Nah, I'm just gonna go play Armored Core 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I really want to do mech stuff or Zone of the Enders, these are more super robot things than real mechs. But
yeah. This is, like I said, it has a whole multiplayer suite, but what people play the most is a 6 versus 6 mode, where they literally...
a mere $48, huh?
Oh my god, man. You kind of just spoiled the lead there, but dude.
Wow.
So this is free to play. It's available for PC and Xbox right now. It is eventually coming to PS5 as well, but it only launched right now for PC and Xbox. It is on Game Pass. So it's free, plus you can just download it on Game Pass if you want to. And if you do play it on Game Pass, one thing I like that they're doing with Game Pass, Matt, is even with free-to-play games, if you decide to download them and play them on Game Pass, you get bonuses, like extra cosmetics, or sometimes they'll give you currency to use to buy the cosmetics or whatever. This game does the same thing. If you play it on Game Pass, you get a little bit of bonuses or whatever that they've worked out with the developer. But this is mostly a 6v6 competitive mech battle game. There are 3-player modes where you can play cooperatively, and it's kind of like an extraction shooter where you go out into the world, you kill like computer-controlled enemies, and you collect loot, and then you need to extract with it. And they do throw other human teams in there, much to my surprise. I didn't realize that there were other human teams in there, and they ended up wiping me out before I extracted one time, so I learned that lesson the hard way. But the primary mode is 6 versus 6 mech battles, and there are 6 different classes. There's a medium attacker, ultra heavy defender, heavy brawler, light sniper, light attacker, light support, and the ultra heavy defender. And one thing I will say is that I tried them all, and I was able to be successful with pretty much all of them. The first time I played with the light sniper, I got my ass whooped. Second time, though, I was like, okay, I just need to be a little more cautious and stay behind cover or whatever. And once I did, then all of a sudden I started mopping up the kills with that, because with that sniper, people get engaged in like up close confrontations. They don't even know that you're sitting 300 yards away sniping them and taking an inch off of their health every time. They just think they're losing that health to the guy that they're fighting. So I found a way to even be successful with the sniper ultimately, just sitting off to the side and waiting for other mechs to engage, and then kind of sniping into that engagement and helping my teammate as they battle somebody much more up close and personal. But one thing I found was, like, if you spend enough time with every one of the 6 classes in this, you can be good with it. And ultimately, the class that I ended up settling on was the heavy brawler, because the brawler can shoot stuff, plus he has a gigantic like energy axe that you can use when you get close up to hack the other robots with. And so that to me was the most fun to play with. And it also worked out. It was the one that I ended up being the best with and got the most kills with and helped my team the most with. Now, when you're playing these 6v6 battles, like, you hardly ever play TDM. Every once in a while, TDM will come around. But for the most part, it's like capture and hold stuff. Go to this node, defend it. Go to this node, destroy it. Go to this area, upload stuff while people try to attack you. There's an Overwatch mode where you have this, like, cart that you follow around, and you have to follow the cart through the level while the other team tries to stop you. It literally has, like, every gameplay mode that you see in every, like, game as a service first-person shooter, except you're battling with mechs. And then, like I said, it also has that other mode that's more like an extraction mode, where you have 2 teammates and you're fighting other teams of 3 to collect loot and then extract before they kill you. So you pick a mech in this, but you also pick, like, your human that goes inside the mech. And you saw, so customization in this is pretty rare, in all honesty. Like, I hardly ever got, like, new stuff for the mechs or new cosmetics for the mechs. You can get away with changing simple things on your human character, like the color of their suit and, like, their hair and stuff like that. The other thing I would say about this is, like, the character creation in this is insane. Like, I just played Oblivion Remastered or whatever. I played tons of RPGs. I think the character creation in this is better than a lot of RPGs. Like, I've never seen this in a lot of games. You can control the length of the hair in this.
I begin to wonder if, because creating the character is such a big deal when you first, like, load up a game on a stream, if people, like, if they've learned to front load and really put a lot of effort in the character creation, because that is such a thing.
It's possible. It is absolutely possible. But they give you, so if you want to pay, there's just endless. And look, all the big outfits, you saw that one outfit cost $50. What are they thinking?
Do you get the mech with that at least?
You do. That's like a whole kit or whatever that matches, but still, that's $50
Yeah.
Like, just getting a new outfit.
That's a game.
It is. Just getting an outfit in this is like $12. It's insane. Now, I'll say this. You don't have to. Like, I've never bought a thing. I never spent a penny in this, and I had a blast. I played this for a good 5 days straight. I felt like I hit, like, a skill ceiling at a certain point and kind of started losing interest at a certain point. But I played this for like 5 days, never spent a penny, never felt like I needed to spend money. I'm not like the player anyway who needs, like, a hat for my character or whatever. But one thing I will say is that most of the costumes in this that you pay for are the sexy costumes for the girls. They're the ones that are the most expensive. No surprise. My guess is by now most publishers have figured out that that's probably the biggest revenue driver of any game as a service is sexy costumes. I'm not going to make any judgments there on anybody for buying those sexy costumes, but you can see in games now that they are...
certainly the people who made Nier have figured out that that's where they're... I mean, is there anything that doesn't have Nier costumes in it now?
Yeah, I mean, everything does. Like, the first Descendant just got Nier stuff. Like,
Descendant.
Every game has it now. Yeah, and for good reason.
Blade, it's like, why not?
Yep. Each mech has 4 different abilities, and they're mostly mapped to the shoulder buttons, but some of them you'll have to hit the X or the Y button every once in a while. As far as controlling your mechs, you have a multi-jump that you can use as many times as you want, and then you have, like, a dash forward that's the circle button, and basically that just lets you fly forward. And in most mechs, you can pretty much fly for as long as you want to. You'll never run out of the resource before you need to stop. The bigger boys, you do have to kind of keep an eye on a little bit more and make sure that you're going to make it to whatever your destination is before you run out of your boost. But the boost is very generous. There's also executions in this, although it's very hard to pull them off. You have a very short window to tap the Y button, and then the way that all the fonts in this are white, and it all just blends in with the madness that's going on in the background. So it was very hard for me to see the prompts for the executions. I pulled off a couple of them or whatever. But that's also a big part of what you pay for. So when you pay for a character in this, you're not just paying for the outfits. You're paying for, like, a bunch of different stuff. You're paying for their finishing move, whatever their animation is, if they get MVP, stuff like that is what you're paying for when you pay for a character. So you get the outfit, plus you get those animations. And that's why they're trying to jack up the price on that. Still definitely not worth it at all. And then you can use mission tokens, things that you actually earn just via playing. And that gives you access to the character's bodysuit, their height, their hairstyle, and their eye color. Those are pretty much the only things that are free. Everything else you got to pay money for as far as cosmetics and customizing either your mech or your human character. Netcode in this is really good. There are tons of people playing this. You get a game in like a second. It matches up real fast. And if you don't want to use the matchmaking, it has a good old-fashioned server list, which people like Matt and I will definitely appreciate, where you can go and look and see how many players are there, what the ping is, and decide whether you want to join that server or not. Something that should be in every game now, but just really isn't anymore. Look, the game does a good job of mixing up the modes. I wish it would just let me play TDM if I wanted to, but you can't. Like, you choose this one overarching mode, and then there's 5 different options inside that big mode that it cycles through. And I don't know what the algorithm is for that, but it does feel like it just goes in sequential order, and it never does like the same type of mode twice in a row or whatever. But you can see, like, each mech has its own style and a way to be effective. So right now, this mech that I'm using is like the ultimate heavy. So even though I'm being attacked by 3 dudes, I have enough shields where I can just sit there and just keep unloading my guns and killing them. And eventually they go away. They're like, oh, wait a minute. I'm attacking this dude. Is not doing anything. When you're this mech, you need it. They need like 3 or 4 people attacking you at the same time to take you down. If they don't, you're screwed. And that is one thing I would say about this game in general, is if you get caught out by yourself, you're toast. You really need to stick with your team and fly around with your team. Because otherwise, like, the other team will pick up on the fact that you're by yourself, and they'll just swarm you and kill you, because that's how you kill people in this for the most part. Now, your snipers and stuff like that, they can be taken out much easier. But if you have like a mid or a heavy build in this, you really need to have multiple enemies taking you on before you're going to get taken out. Which, and again, I think it is balanced pretty well ultimately. And that's pretty much it. There's really no like story set up to this. There's no cinematic that opens the thing that explains what's going on. There's no cutscenes that happen other than like certain modes. If your objective is to destroy something, if you win, they'll show a little cutscene of the thing being blown up at the end. But there's really no context for this. There's no plot. There's no setup. They don't tell you about the universe or what's going on. They just plop you down and like, here's a bunch of mechs, go fight them. And I'll be honest, that's good enough for me. I played this for like 5 days before I started to burn out a little bit. And maybe a big part of it was I started playing with people who were better eventually. Instead of being able to beat up on some of the people who were just on Game Pass and trying it out for the first time, as my level went up, I started playing with better players. And that's when you really kind of have to focus on the nuances of the game. And I'll just be honest, a lot of this does feel like button mashing, where you're just like, man, as soon as that missile's ready, I'm just jamming that X button so that that missile fires as soon as it's ready to go. Because everything is on a cooldown. There's no real ammo in this game. And you can see just to the right there, you know, LB, RT, those are that correspond with the abilities of that particular mech. And after you use one, you can see the meter. It takes a little while for it to fill up, depending on how powerful it is. If it's really powerful, it takes longer to refill. You guys know the role. You guys know the deal, how it works in these games. So it's a little bit different in that it's a mech battle game, and that sucked me in for a little while for sure. I definitely felt some Transformers vibes while playing this, which was cool. But the mechs, unlike Transformers, well, unless you talk about Michael Bay's films, but the mechs in this don't look different enough. They all look very similar. They're not like Transformers in that way, where they're representative of a beetle or a gun or a boombox or whatever.
These look a lot more like Gundams with the serial numbers filed off.
Pretty much, yeah. And they do kind of all blend in eventually, like all the mechs. They're just not enough to set them apart. The only way you can really tell is by their size, or if you use like the melee character that has like the crazy axe or whatever.
Like, I appreciate kind of the virtual own aspect to it.
Yeah. Yeah, like I like the vibes of this. Again, Matt, it's crazy. Look at how good this game looks. It's just crazy how these little studios are just churning out these amazing looking games. It really is nuts. And it's free. All the work that goes into this, and it's free. And that is the one thing I will say.
Unless you want that outfit.
Right. The monetization in this is all out of whack. They're going to figure that out real fast. Like, they're going to be like, wait, we're not making any money off of this.
Well, are they or not? I don't know.
I don't know yet.
Like, I'm sure there's people who spend that kind of money on stuff like that.
How
many people do you need to buy the $50 outfit before you consider that a success?
That's true. I mean, I don't know how many people are going to buy the $50 outfit. I mean, that's the cost of a game. It's like, if you're a free-to-play game, how do you rationalize, like, one cosmetic costing as much as a game? It seems really crazy.
I mean, I think the Marvel Rivals pricing is insane too.
I agree. Yeah, but it also it's starting to fade a little bit though.
A little bit, but it worked for a while.
I'm sure they made their money back.
Now again, I kind of see the incentive more with Marvel stuff because people are fans of those things outside of that game.
Yeah,
this is a sort of like, why do I want to pay $50 for this like it's a sexy outfit and a cool looking mech, but like, what? Like $50?
I don't care about cosmetics at all.
But at the same time, it probably didn't cost them that much to generate those assets.
Right.
So, maybe they sell 100 of them and they're fine.
They recoup the cost, yeah. I mean, look, I'm sure, a lot of games like that, like Marvel Rivals, I'm sure it's recouped its costs already. Now it's just straight profit that it's making. Yeah. This game probably hasn't got to that place yet, and I have a feeling they're going to have to adjust some of the prices of some of their stuff before they do get to that point.
Well, is everything that much, or is it just sort of, you don't have to spend $50 to buy anything. You said
no,
the
it's like I said,
like $12.
It's like I said, just the costume is like $12. Yeah. That still seems like a lot to me.
It is a lot, but it's not that much for like your average game like this at this point.
Because what are they, like $5 or $8 usually?
I think they're usually more like 10 now.
Really, for skins?
From what I've seen.
Damn.
I mean, I don't know for sure. But like the AAA space, I don't even remember if I don't think like we saw too much like that with like Concord or stuff because you had to pay to buy those.
It's funny that people care enough about what their character looks like to spend that much money. I do not care at all.
I don't know. I figure it's the same kind of thing where like people are carrying like, the $300 water bottle or that's $2,000 purse.
Right.
Like it's purely for people who know how much those things
flex.
Cost.
Yeah.
So like you see the guy with the $50 skin in this game, you're like, oh, that guy spent $50 on that skin.
He's rich.
But it's not like back in the day when like you'd use like like the old Halo days, you'd use like the Hayabusa outfit because to prove that you basically did the hardest thing in the game.
Yeah, to prove your mettle at the game. Yeah.
And now it's just more like I have a lot of disposable income.
Yeah,
it's sort of it's a very different reason for showing off. I think.
We've talked about how kids are ridiculed at school now.
Oh,
if
right.
their Fortnite character has crappy cheap
doesn't
merch.
have enough bling. Yeah.
It's nuts. I'm glad I was not a part of that generation.
We were ridiculed for not having it on ourselves.
Right.
So I don't know if that's better. Mm-hmm. Especially when you're like, wait, why? Because I don't what my pants? I don't peg. What does that mean? Yeah. Why? That's like, okay. Like,
pegging pants. That never came. That's one fashion thing that never came back.
Yeah, that never came back again, did it? Like that's some things were left in the 80s for good reason.
Herbus Jones asked, Shane, does that mean you've not paid to look like the great Cornholio in Black Ops 6 yet then? No, I've definitely not.
Oh, I saw a clip of that with like that and like somebody. I didn't even look like Call of Duty anymore.
Well, it's insane because they're a cartoon inside Call of Duty. They didn't try to make them like polygonal objects. They're literally just a flat 2D cartoon that runs around. It's kind of cool, actually. Like, it's funny. And then they released a controller, a Great Cornholio controller for Xbox.
Man, does anyone under 40 even know what that is?
I don't think they do. No, I don't think.
That's definitely a reference for our age, right?
But, Matt, we're the ones that spend all the money, man.
I guess.
We are. I mean, the kids don't buy it until we give them the gift card.
I would love to see, maybe this is a skit for somebody, but I would love to see something where like a dad buys the Great Cornholio skin and like forces his kid to play as it, and the kid just has no idea what it is. He's like, I don't know. Like my dad said I had to be the Great Cornholio. And it's just like...
We got some questions. Joaquin Dragoon says, can mechs transform into jets? There's no transforming in this at all. But
yet.
You don't need to... Yet, you're right. But you don't need to transform because literally every mech acts like a jet.
They seem to be able to go aerial just fine. You can fly.
Yeah, you can jump. You can multi-jump as much. And then if you just want to go horizontal to the ground, you just hold circle. And you can just fly straight forward. So you don't really need to transform in order to be a jet, I guess is what I'm saying. Vincent, I thought that 3 versus 3 was entirely TDM. Nope. You can play Extraction with other 3-player teams. I learned that lesson the hard way. Vincent says apparently the big threat is sentient rocks. They do get in the way. Rigor Mortis UK shows you don't need 500 people in AAA studios. You need to get back to the old days of smaller teams like the 90s, Bitmap Brothers, etc., the golden age of game development. That's a perspective for sure. Drifter J, do you think the extraction mode is going to have legs? I'm not a big extraction player because, again, I got burned by it. I literally went to extract with a full belly of stuff, and the other humans just showed up and just wiped out my squad, and I lost everything. And the other thing I would say, too, is that it takes, like, a long time to play the extraction mode in this. It literally, the matches are, like, 20 minutes, and they make you fly, like, all the way across the map through these crazy, like, sci-fi storms that almost kill you and blah, blah, blah. I did not enjoy the extraction mode in this all that much. To be perfectly honest, I'm not a big fan of it anyway. Erebus says, watching Raphael from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles calling Cornholio to kick the T-8800 in the nuts is quite the trip. I mean, that's what Black Ops has become. That's what Call of Duty has become now. It's just like a pop culture mashup where you can just shoot and kill pretty much anything.
Fortnite basically made it the standard.
It really did. Yeah. And then Noxiator says, yes, but video game companies don't want to just make some money. They want all the money. And I hear you there for sure. Let's see if anyone in our YouTube chat has anything to say. Caleb says, for anyone who couldn't play Armored Core like me. Yeah, I'll say this too. This is definitely way more simple and casual than Armored Core. It's very like run and gun, pick up and play. Like you can see at all times, you can see the abilities that you have on the screen.
Part of me that looks at this and just doesn't really understand why they're even mechs.
Yeah,
like
it could be anything.
It could be anything. Yeah, it doesn't really seem to have a lot of mech DNA to it.
No, that's accurate. It is just kind of a third-person shooter.
Yeah, like you could swap this out for basically like Dragon Ball characters, and it would be pretty much the same, down to being able to fly.
Rafor13 says, wow, just don't get why anyone would play this. Yeah, I mean, different strokes for different folks. I'm a sucker for mechs, so I was in there. And it's free to play.
I mean, if mechs are what do it for you, and you've been looking, I mean, I could see
and
that,
I play shooters, obviously, a ton as well.
It just does. It looks like every other shooter to me in terms of what you're doing. But again, if being in a giant robot is more important than what you're doing, then yeah, this might be the thing for you.
Yep. And then, you finish and I'll say this, like you finish and all these levels go up, but it never unlocks anything.
Yeah.
It gives you like points basically.
Right. Or if like you saw that outfit and you're like $50 for that, what a steal. Like maybe this is what you've been waiting for. I don't know.
I don't know. But anyway, it's called Mecha Break. Right now it's available for PC and Xbox. It is on Game Pass.
I know it's probably meant to be more of an action-oriented title, but when I hear Mecha Break, it sounds like, why don't you take a Mecha Break?
Right.
Why don't you,
a Kit Kat commercial.
Yeah, why don't you put down the pen, stop typing for a minute, and have a Mecha Break?
Right.
Like play us for a little while. It sounds like they're inviting you to have a match to just break up your day a little bit.
But anyway, it is free to play. It's not out for PS5 yet, but it is coming, so just keep that on your radar. I know most of y'all are PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5 players, and it's not available for you guys yet. But if you do have Game Pass, I recommend downloading it and giving it a go. Like, I had fun with it. Lasted for 5 days. I felt like once I got good at it, I lost interest in it a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I still got 5 days of play out of it for free. That's pretty awesome, I think. All right, there you go. That's Mecha Break. Next up is time for the lightning round, where we run through all the big headlines of the week as quickly as possible. And we do need to be quick, Matt. We are running up against it for time, so we need to make this like machine gun fire if we can.
You thought this would be short.
I know. Unfortunately, well, we did talk about Xbox longer than I thought, but I think it was worth it. I think it was a really good discussion. But anyway, unfortunately, there are a couple topics in here that could really generate some big-time discussion, but we just don't have time to do it, unfortunately. First up in the lightning round, Matt. This week, Mark Cerny, who we talked about earlier, people asked him about the PlayStation 6. He went on a podcast, if you can believe that. Mark Cerny went on a freaking podcast. I was like, what? Okay. And people were like, hey, what's up with the PlayStation 6? When are we going to learn about the PlayStation 6?
What is up with the PlayStation 6?
And he said that he's not even going to talk about it for 3 years.
Wow.
He's not even going to talk about it until 2028. Which, best case scenario, means it comes out at the end of 2028?
Well, I mean, you feel like you start talking about it well before that.
Right.
So that does line up with my prediction that Last of Us 3 will be 2030.
Seriously, it does.
But at least it sounds like Intergalactic will actually be a PS5 game.
Do you think this is because the PS5 Pro is selling so horribly?
I don't know. I think it's because they have to wait for something to happen in hardware to would boost the power to justify another system.
He did mention that the PS5 Pro is going to get an updated version of, what do they call it, PSSR?
Yeah.
Which is their version of DLSS.
Yeah.
So he said next year they're going to update that for the PS5 Pro, but they can't. The base PS5 is too weak. Mm-hmm. So PS5 base is pretty much locked at this point. But PS5 Pro is going to get another upgrade next year.
Although, to be fair, a lot of stuff on PS5 base, they've been doing some pretty great stuff.
It looks amazing.
Right now.
Yeah. If every game looks as good as Death Stranding 2 going forward, I'm cool.
Probably not.
But I would be cool.
Again, say what you will about Kojima, but every single thing he puts out pushes the hardware to like limits. It doesn't even push to limits, but does stuff that like go back and look at Metal Gear Solid 2 on the PS2.
Yeah, I know.
It's great.
I know.
The fact that he has that, and look at the other stuff that was coming out at the time.
He must have some ringer that works on his tech team.
I don't know.
That just keeps going with him every place he goes. It's not him programming these engines.
No, he doesn't do that. No.
He gets somebody else that's really good that has been on his team for a really long time.
Maybe Shinkawa just like yells at the hardware until it submits. I don't know. He's like, make my designs look good, damn it.
Well, I guess the good news here is we mentioned earlier that most people have not upgraded to PS5. Mm-hmm. So we're looking at least another 3 years of PlayStation 5. So maybe, for the people who haven't upgraded yet, they can say, well, you know what? Maybe it is worth it to upgrade at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I feel slightly less stupid for having bought the Pro.
Right, yeah. But anyway...
What everyone really wants to know is, where is NAC 3, Mark?
It's probably coming. But the point...
Well, that's it. You can't do NAC 3 until you have the PS6 at your disposal, because it needs that much.
Yeah. Well, point being, if you've been waiting for the PlayStation 6, you are going to be waiting a lot longer. And my guess is it's going to cost just as much as the PS5 Pro. It is going to cost $700 at least. Mm-hmm. If these tariffs, Mr. Moron threw tariffs back on yesterday because they need another distraction. Now that all the other stuff's coming out about the Epstein files, he's like, oh, got to put the tariffs back on. Yeah. Right. Got to put the tariffs back on so people can look at the tariffs and get mad about the tariffs. So, look, I would also recommend going and buying a Switch 2 right now. Because he just put the tariffs back on Japan. Who knows? I mean, I'd buy that Switch 2 if you can right now at $450 because it's going to go up. PlayStation 6 could be $800. We don't know. So anyway, if you have yet to upgrade to PS5, this is a little reprieve for you where you can maybe reconsider and be like, well, maybe it's worth it. If it's going to be 3 more years before PS6, and PS6 is going to be crazy expensive.
I mean, you're probably looking more 4 or 5 more years if he's not even going to talk about it for 3 years.
I couldn't believe it. I could not believe the quote. So anyway, just a heads up for y'all if you're trying to figure out what you're doing with your PS5, PS5
I guess that's the other thing is do you believe it?
Right.
Probably. I mean, Mark Cerny's not a very deceptive man.
Yeah, that's not his MO, really.
No,
I mean, maybe... Honestly, his biggest fault is how honest he is.
He is very honest about that.
He really is. All right, we need to move on, unfortunately. I could have talked about that for a lot longer, but we can't. Next up, another Sony story, and that is that Helldivers 2 was just announced for Xbox Series X, the first ever PlayStation first-party game to be released on Xbox. Now,
looks like everybody's learning that money is good no matter where it comes from.
Seriously. It's so funny how Xbox just broke the wall down, and now PlayStation's coming through it. First of all, working with PC, like Xbox did, saying, you know what? Our exclusives going to PC is no skin off of our ass. Then PlayStation does it. Releases its games for PC.
Yeah. It's like as a PlayStation, and PlayStation's like, did you notice that the line went up?
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Pretty much.
Where else can we do this?
Uh-huh. That's exactly what's happening.
I mean, Helldivers makes a lot of sense.
It's the game that you would do it with.
Yeah.
Because it's just money in the bank.
Money in the bank.
Perpetuity.
Perpetuity. And it's like not really a Sony identified thing. You're not handing over one of your core
Fans
IPs
won't get pissed off about it. Yep. Yeah. It was the perfect game. But, Matt, do you think more are coming?
I don't know. I think it depends. If this thing does well, I feel like maybe at least multiplayer stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that you can kind of continually milk a ongoing online audience for.
I wonder if PlayStation's starting to realize, you know what? We don't want to do hardware either anymore.
You know what the ultimate swerve would be is Concord comes out for Xbox.
and
it's a huge hit.
And doesn't re-release for PlayStation.
No.
But they make all their money back on it, on Xbox.
Like Concord becomes the next Halo on Xbox, and no one can explain it.
We are seeing stuff, people, that if we had talked about this 4 or 5 years ago, we would have never dreamed. But it's funny how life happens in slow increments that you eventually get to some place you never could have dreamed you would have got to.
This on here, you got Gears of War coming on a play. I still see the Gears of War thing on the PSN thing. I'm just like, that's crazy. That's crazy.
It's really nuts.
It's so weird to see it surrounded by the blue.
Uh-huh. You know? Yep, but it looks like PlayStation is jumping on that train as well. Next up in the lightning round. And I hinted at this earlier. This is a topic that we could literally discuss for like a couple hours if Matt and I really got into it. But it was released this week, according to Circana, which is the new name for NPD, that sales among young players have fallen 25% year over year from last year. 25% down in 1 year.
They have all they need.
Holy crap. That is bad for the industry, Matt. If you care about an industry other than Fortnite and Roblox, it's bad.
Yeah, it's pretty good for Fortnite.
That is great for Fortnite. Yeah. But look, Epic is smart. It has made Fortnite this thing that has everything. Mm-hmm. The only thing it doesn't have in it yet is a fighting game. And that's probably in development. Right.
Yeah, I'm sure it's coming.
Yeah. Everything else is in there. You don't have to leave Fortnite anymore if you're a kid. And your bling, your outfits, your V-Bucks, the stuff that you buy with the V-Bucks that I give my nieces and nephews, transfers over to all the other modes. So your investment is paying off in multiple places. How do you fight that?
So what's the age range on this?
I think it was 8 to 13.
Mm-hmm. So core Roblox, Fortnite.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely Fortnite and Roblox that's doing it. But how is it sustainable for everybody else?
I don't know. Well, the question also becomes, like, once they age out of that demographic, like, that's one of the interesting things to me right now is, like, because you're starting to get the early generation of Fortnite players. Mm-hmm. They're in college now.
Yeah.
You know, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Because it's been what, like 10 years now?
Not quite, but close.
Because it was around there. And so now I'm like, so if you were like, 8 when this started, you're graduating high school around now.
Are you still playing it?
And what do you do? Like, do you move on to anything else? Do you just stop playing video games?
I think that's the big X factor, Matt, is what happens to Fortnite players.
What do Fortnite players grow up to be?
Right. Do they grow up to play games still, or do they rebel and stop?
Or do they just keep playing this?
Right.
I mean, theoretically, you go to college or whatever, or maybe you don't go to... what does college get you anymore at this point?
Seriously.
So you go to trade school, and you just keep playing Fortnite when you get home at night? I don't know.
It's the big X factor.
Or do you like regress something? I mean, I remember when I got to college, nobody had the cutting edge stuff, but everybody brought like their
Super
Nintendo and Genesis. We played Mortal Kombat all the time freshman year. People younger than me, that was the big Pokemon renaissance. Mm-hmm. They brought their Game Boys and stuff, and everybody started playing Pokemon again. Mm-hmm. People I know who are like basically young enough to be my kids were like, they talk about how they went to college and all of a sudden everybody had their old Pokemon games. It was like rediscovering Pokemon. And that was like and it was like a comfort. It was like a security blanket too, because it was like this piece of their childhood they got to rediscover together in this place where they were like homesick and felt really scared and
I can see that
unhappy.
Connective tissue.
Yeah, it was a really good way to bond. And like I wonder how that works with this kind of game.
I think every publisher is terrified of the answer to that, and we'll see. But it is bad when 25% of sales.
So is that sales in terms of like games, or is it even sale? Does not include sales of like Fortnite bucks, right?
No, it's sales. Yeah, it's sales of games. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I really feels like there's that demographic there really has sort of decided that they have all they need.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't, but
like Epic has achieved the dream, and it should be scaring the shit out of everybody else.
It really should. Yep. But anyway, we got to keep going. Next up in the lightning round, Neil Druckmann has left The Last of Us HBO.
Mm-hmm. And so has I can't remember her name. She was the co-writer of the second game, and she was also a writer on the show, and she also left. The show went back to Naughty Dog and is going to be working on that. So the exodus of two of the key Naughty Dog people from this show is very interesting to me. Before season 3 has even really begun anything.
I'll just say this. I did have some information that this was going to happen. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that they're going to leave the show, but I knew that Neil was going to rededicate himself to video games, and that was going to be his thrust, and that he was not going to go into TV and film and leave games.
That's interesting. Like, I wonder if he just didn't like it.
I don't know. Or maybe the response to season 2. He's like, maybe I made the show worse. I don't know.
I mean, if they're backing away from this, it makes me think that the adaptational changes for going forward are going to get even more wild.
It might be.
And it's also, I mean, probably just coincidence, but today they're putting the update up that lets you play Last of Us 2 in chronological order, which is sort of like the worst thing I could ever think of.
It ruins the whole thing.
I'm sure it's interesting. I hope it has some kind of disclaimer that's like, do not play it this way first.
It does, actually.
It does? Okay, good. But like, because I would be interested to play it in that order, but you should never play it first.
No way. I can't imagine it being better.
But you're kind of doing that in the show. Like there's a little bit of that happening.
There's a little inspiration from the show caused them to work on that probably.
Somewhat, but I think it's a mistake.
No, I agree.
And I wonder what's happening. And again,
I don't think it's going to make the show better for them to leave the show.
Probably not.
I hate to say it,
but like I can't imagine any reason to leave the show. And that, I mean, I guess you could be trying to refocus on maybe Intergalactic just everybody needs to put their heads down and figure it out. Mm-hmm. But like. The only reason I'd leave a show in that situation would be because I saw what was coming and didn't want to deal with the blowback.
Yep.
Didn't want to attach to me.
I agree.
Especially if Neil, like, that's just prestige at this point. But I had that argument with some of my friends about like this and that, like what's going to happen in season 5. They'll have to be moving forward past the games, and because I guarantee you that Sony's going to want another season, HBO's going to want another season if people are still watching it. I'm like, I don't know if they're still going to be watching it in the droves that they were, because like season 2 didn't set the charts on fire.
Yeah.
We'll see how much further it goes. I don't know. Like I admit I didn't finish season 2.
I did, but it was way worse than season 1. It was definitely way worse. Mm-hmm. And maybe he just doesn't want to be attached to the downfall of any piece of pop culture art. I don't know.
I mean, I can't read Neil's mind. I never could read Neil's mind even when I'm playing the games he writes. But like, I don't know.
That's funny.
We'll see. I mean, I guess I'd rather have him back focusing on Intergalactic and getting that out the door, and then...
Oh, this is all good news to me.
Inevitably Last of Us Part 2.
I want him to focus on games and not TV and film. So, I got what I wanted, I guess, because I'm not that concerned about the show not being great. I'd rather the games be great.
If the show is still like firing on all cylinders the way it did in season 1, I would attribute enough of that to him that I wouldn't want him to think. But like, after this season, I'm like, I don't really care what happens now.
I don't either. I agree. All right, next up on the lightning round, we hinted this a little bit earlier. Matt kind of talked about it. A bunch of stuff going on with Battlefield at this point. First of all, Matt, the budget for the game is over $400 million already.
What in the world do you think you're doing?
And then per what you said earlier, EA stated that it expects 100 million people to play the next Battlefield. I don't even think prior games hit 33 million, like you said. Like, maybe over the lifespan of like 12 years.
I actually I looked a bunch of that up.
Oh, really?
The highest player count for any Battlefield was 31 or 33 million.
Wow, I'm surprised to hear that actually.
And that was, I don't remember which one that was. Battlefield 1. Battlefield 1 was the biggest.
Not surprised.
The biggest success.
Yeah, I believe that. But dude,
so triple that. In the year of our Lord 2026.
EA has lost its damn mind. What is going on over there? It feels like everyone's lost their minds.
Do 100 million people play anything?
No, never ever. Like GTA 5, that's it. And Wii Sports.
How many people play Fortnite? What's Fortnite's audience?
I don't know, actually. I would be interested to see what its monthly uniques are for Fortnite. My guess would be 15 million, maybe.
I don't know.
20 million.
It's like, who's running that over there? Dr. Evil?
I mean, like, look, even if Fortnite was
1 billion players, like, fuck it. Like,
even if Fortnite was at 50 million, you're insane to say you're going to double Fortnite.
No.
That means you have to pull people away from Fortnite to play your game. That is not happening. I don't know what kind of crack EA is smoking, but it's like it's lost its mind. Also,
Fortnite has 650 million registered players as of January 2025. Monthly active users of 110 million and an average of 60 million daily active users. So that's where they got those numbers. They want to make Battlefield Fortnite.
Yeah. Well, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Many have tried. All have failed.
Yeah.
You're going to fail too.
Yeah, my main question for them on that is like, okay, so when that doesn't happen...
Then what?
Then what? Are you just going to fire everybody?
I'll be honest, Matt. I just hope 10 million people play this new Battlefield so that it survives a viability more than like 2 months.
Yeah, why don't we just like aim for better than Hardline at this point, right? Like,
which is a very low bar.
Yes.
So anyway, hope you guys are excited for Battlefield because they need 100 million of you guys to make it.
$400 million for that.
Yep, for a multiplayer shooter. Although they are saying it is going to have a campaign. So
wahoo!
Yeah. I'm sure Vince Sampella's like, oh, this is nothing. I usually spend 1.5 on Call of Duty billion. Mm-hmm. Like, seriously. It probably is way lower than Black Ops 7 or whatever is coming next.
Well, Vince doesn't work on those anymore.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, back in the day, like, he was doing that. Back then.
I don't think they spent $1 billion on Call of Duty 4.
No, back then they did not. No. Definitely not. And then
they certainly didn't spend that much on Titanfall 2.
No, unfortunately. And then our last topic for this week's lightning round. there's a big dust up over this organization called Stop Killing Games, and their goals are admirable. They're trying to preserve games, and I think that's something that we all want and we all want to fight for, is to make sure that when a game is no longer played, that it's still there and people can go back.
Their main thing is they want like stuff like when something like The Crew gets taken down, that instead of just vanishing, when they shut down an online game, they basically give you a way to play it offline.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yep.
That's basically
it. And then Anthem, they also announced this week that Anthem's shutting down next year. So
I will be honest, I did not know Anthem was still up.
Me either. I thought it was gone.
It did not occur to me that was still running.
Yep. And so people are like, well, what's going to happen with Anthem? And so again, their heart is in the right place. But the problem is when you do this, you're asking the developer to like spend all this extra money to make sure that you have this mode. And then you start thinking about the licenses that they sign with like AWS to serve the game and all the stuff that goes along with it, licenses for the music to allow that to go into perpetuity. Basically, there's a lobbying organization in Europe that's saying like, look, we agree with the concept behind this, but it's never going to work because it's going to make game development so much more expensive, and it's already too expensive that developers just simply can't do it and won't want to do it.
So as part of this also, I haven't really dug super into their MO. Like, do they also want to demand that the game continue to be sold?
No. They just want people who already bought it to be able to play it.
So why would that make that more expensive?
Because they're saying that if it's an online-only game like Anthem,
right,
you have to keep those servers up forever.
No, well, that's not what Stop Killing Games wants. They want an offline mode to be added so you can still play the game.
Here's the thing, though. Certain games you cannot turn into a single-player game. And if you did, then that's even more expensive than having to keep the game alive. So no matter how you look at it, it's going to cost the developers and the publishers more money, which means the cost of games are going to go up, which, according to the lobbying thing in Europe, that's a bad outcome. And so it's basically fighting against Stop Killing Games.
Right. But also isn't like what Stop Killing Games is asking for, isn't that in line somewhat with European consumer law?
I don't know.
I read, I don't know for sure.
I don't know, actually.
I can't quote you the chapter and verse, but I had read that what they were asking for was actually pretty well supported by your EU consumer law, because EU consumer law is actually much more protective of consumer rights. Than
America.
Is here.
Yeah, but I would.
That's
say,
why we have refunds now.
I mean, I would say I don't know this, but I would just assume that if you're a lobbying firm, that you would know the law and that you wouldn't fight against something that's illegal.
But you also do have an agenda.
Yeah,
like you can maybe be like, okay, we can get this law changed if we show that.
It's basically the ESA for Europe, so they're on the side of the publishers, and the publishers saying we don't want to do this, and so they're trying to stick up for the publishers. Yeah. That's what's happening.
I'm just saying I don't especially buy that idea because, like, honestly, offline Anthem doesn't seem like that crazy a thing. Like, I mean, obviously you'd lose the multiplayer stuff, but basically you need to like alter the difficulty so a single player can succeed in these missions and just let them run offline. Like, run it as a single server.
Yeah, that's just Anthem, though. You start thinking about other games where they really are just all in
right. Well, I mean, stuff.
Like,
I mean, obviously,
games
like
as a service
what the hell is offline Marvel Rivals?
Right.
Like that. Some of these games just don't work.
What is offline Mecha Break?
What does that mean?
There is no offline Mecha Break, but that's what they're pushing for. They want you to be able to play Mecha Break.
Right. Well, that is just silly.
It's not going to happen.
Like that. I don't know what they. I mean, you think they're going to add peer to peer for that? That won't work.
That's what they're asking for. But
it doesn't. But that doesn't work for that kind of thing.
But that is exactly what they're asking for.
It's a terrible, terrible solution for like a big Overwatch peer to peer would be a nightmare.
Yeah. So I think we agree with sort of the ideas behind it, but right now I don't think we figured out the execution.
Oh yeah, I mean, I agree with the idea of preserving as much as you can where it makes sense, but it's like, I mean, again, things like The Crew, there's no reason The Crew can't work offline.
Yeah.
Like,
no, you're right.
Zero reason you couldn't like just sort of be like, okay, you're just gonna play. There's not gonna be any of the online features or no online races.
There won't be other people driving around.
Forza Horizon can work just fine offline, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like an online, a purely online shooter, like I don't know how you do an offline version of Warframe,
right?
Or an offline version of Fortnite,
right?
Like that doesn't make any sense. I mean, I guess you can do the tower
just
defense
the building
thing,
stuff, the tower defense,
but like the actual.
But again, you have to build the whole other game to do that. So I don't think this is going to work. It may end up just being a case-by-case basis. But the good news, look, the way I look at it is Stop Killing Games is doing a good thing because it's raising awareness for it. And that's going to change some things for the positive. There's no doubt about it. It may not get all the way to its goal, but it's going to help. So,
I mean,
we support you. Stop Killing Games.
Yeah, I think if you can, like, you know, make a publisher sort of realize, like, hey, we should probably build in, like, a way, if we ever take these servers offline, a way to still play, like, I don't know, like, for, you know, like Destiny, still play the campaign. like offline somehow, just as a single player if you want. Maybe the raids go away. Maybe like some of the very online things don't work anymore.
Right.
But it's just, you know, I don't know. Like how do you do that with like Star Wars The Old Republic or World of Warcraft or something?
Yeah.
Like some games are just the online thing is the reason for existing.
No matter what, though, it's going to be more work. And no matter what, more work means more cost.
Yeah.
So, and that's going to be, they're not going to pay it. It's going to be handed down to us to pay. That's how it's going to work. So,
well, maybe, or yeah, I mean, unless you figure out a way to kind of do it in some kind of subsidy thing where like you get some kind of tax break for adhering to that consumer protection idea.
Or you could set up something where maybe you pay $10 to play it in perpetuity or something. Like you have the game, you're like, hey, I want to play The Crew. Pay $10.
Yeah.
Maybe they can offset the cost that way. Anyway, it's very complicated and not simple. And I think it is kind of a game-by-game basis, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's it for the lightning round. And, of course, there's just one thing left to do. That's right. It's time for Name That Game Tune, brought to you by Soundwizardry.com, the absolute masters in audio. Not just game audio, although they're amazing at that. They can work in any type of audio problem you have. They can fix it all. If you're working on a podcast that sounds like crap. If you're working on an episode of Pactor Factor that sounds like crap, and they have helped me with that a couple times. If you're working on a TV show, you're working on a film, a short that you're working, anything that you're working on that involves audio, Soundwizardry.com can help. But I'm just telling you, they really want to work on games. So if you are working on a game right now, maybe you're an indie developer, or maybe you're a major publisher right now, and the people that you have working on audio are dropping the ball, and you need the absolute best in the industry to come in and save your project, go to Soundwizardry.com. Ask for Glenn. He is amazing. Good people. Good work. You can't go wrong with Soundwizardry.com. How this works is I play 5 samples from a video game, audio samples. You try to guess the name of the game before Matt here. Matt's been on a bit of a tear, so you need to be on your P's and Q's. And I'm not saying anything else, because I'll give it all away like I have a couple times in the last few episodes.
P's and Q's. It's Psychonauts.
Damn you! No, I'm kidding. Okay, let me just load up. Let's see here. Oh no, they're not coming up. Uh-oh, the files may not be loaded onto the TriCaster. Uh-oh. We may have to cancel Name That Game Tune for this week. Uh-oh. Yeah, they're not coming in.
Well, then I'm going to say I was right. It was Psychonauts.
It definitely was not. I have an awesome one for this week, too. Ah, this sucks. I don't know what happened.
He's immune to bullets and to love.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I'm definitely bringing that back for next week, because it was I think one of the best ones that I've done. And I totally screwed it up somehow. I apologize, people. I do apologize. How about this? We'll take one question from chat for Q&A, because we are already out of time. So actually, it kind of worked out, oddly enough. Anybody have one question for us before we leave? Drifter Day says Q&A next week. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I apologize for totally screwing that up. Name That Game got the Xbox layoffs. I guess it kind of did. Any questions for us before we close out the show? And thank you guys for being awesome once again in our chat on both YouTube and Twitch. Perfect Dark. Is that the question, Slagathor? We talked about that for like 30 minutes.
No,
all right.
He's asking, he's naming the game.
Oh, nope. Wrong. Sleeping Turtle says, I'll make time to talk about Superman. I think that's next week's.
Yeah.
Do you have LA Gear shoes from Zet Saber?
I did.
I never had them.
I had several pairs of LA Gear shoes back in the day.
Yeah. I never had them.
They
were a big thing in Pennsylvania, though, everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, they were a big deal. Like,
I had several LA Gears, and I think I had one pair of British Knights.
Oh. I never had BKs either. I don't know why, for whatever reason. I just never had them. But
LA Gear were not skater shoes, as I recall. Like the skaters were like, you can't skate in that shit.
No, there are certain shoes that you just couldn't wear because they're expensive,
yeah.
And you'd ollie through them in like a day, and you just ruin them. So I only wore skate shoes.
They were not good shoes, as I recall. They were in.
They were the thing. Yep.
I got the LA gear with the pegged bugle boys, and you're
the Dockers.
Yeah. God, we looked dumb. Like we really did. Like you see why things like MC Hammer happened afterward. It's a natural evolution.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for GameFace episode 441. Thanks to everybody on our chat on both YouTube and Twitch. You guys are awesome. We'll be back next Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern at the same spot you found us this time. A reminder that if you like this show and you want to see it continue, please head on over to patreon.com/SIFTD. Give us a pledge if you can. For just $5 a month, you get all our content early, at least 3 days early. If you can't help us with real money and you have Amazon Prime and you're watching on YouTube, the archive, go down below and you can find the instructions to help us out with Twitch Prime. Give us a free $2.50 a month with Twitch Prime. It doesn't cost you a dang penny. And if you don't have that and you don't have any money, totally cool. Like the show, comment on the show, share the show, review it on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts or any of the other places you're listening to it. It all adds up. It makes a difference for us. We'd really appreciate it. So everybody have yourselves a great week filled with great games. GameFace is up and out.